Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game and The Game Nashville app. We're streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. We are live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena because the Predators are back in town taking on the Boston Bruins tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. Pre-game coverage starting right here on 1025 and 1063, The Game right at 6 p.m. Predators got to get back to those winning ways.
Yeah.
Gave up 15 goals in their last two games. After that 18-game point streak, lost 2 straight, got to get back on track. Got a big one against St. Louis on Thursday. At least a point, if not 2, would be huge for the Predators tonight. Willy Donick will join us here in just a few moments. He's out at morning skate. We'll be joined by PK Subban at the desk at noon. PK Subban back in Nashville, so interested to get PK's perspective of this team, what he thinks the Predators can do and can achieve in the playoffs. So we'll catch up with PK Subban in 1 hour. But D-Mase is here. D-Mase, how we doing? Happy Tuesday.
Hey, happy Tuesday. People be careful out there. Bad storms are coming through. So if you don't have to go outside, don't go. Stay inside. And I think they may be closing schools here. Or pulling kids out of school. So hopefully it's not as bad as it seems like it's going to be. So, but people be safe. But other than that, hey, listen, it's a great day to talk about sports. Those games last night, I know we're getting into Titans stuff.
They were so
and obviously
good.
we'll talk about the Preds tonight. For them to cut this or to stop this bleeding, right now with the 2 losses against 2 very good team in the Colorado Avalanche and obviously Arizona. But man, last night was,
it was a fun night for women's basketball.
It was a fun night. First kept, we watched Iowa defeat LSU. Really good game. Caitlin Clark, she was everything. I mean, if you've never seen her play and yesterday was your first time, then you got treated to an amazing game by an amazing player.
I mean, of all of the hype that Caitlin Clark gets, the commercials and the endorsement deals and the media coverage, I know that there's a certain sector of sports fans that are getting a little bit of Caitlin Clark fatigue, but I'm sorry. She deserves every single ounce of hype that she has gotten. 41 points, 9 threes against that LSU team. I mean, she is frankly unstoppable. She was unstoppable last night.
Yeah, she was unstoppable last night. Angel Reese had a really good game. She had a double-double last night.
20 rebounds.
Johnson had a really good game for LSU, but Caitlin Clark and those guards were just too much because they had to pay so much attention to Caitlin Clark that I think was exhausting. That those other girls, once they started hitting baskets for Iowa, it was done. Caitlin Clark reminded me of Stephen Curry when he was in college. One year they made it to their run, and I think they made it to the Elite 8 somewhere around there with that team. And he just carried that team, through the tournament. Ultimately, they got put out, but his shooting was spectacular.
Yeah.
And that's when everybody started to realize that Stephen Curry was a damn good shooter. And the same thing with Caitlin Clark. I mean, she's carried this Iowa team, not just in the tournament, but all season. And it was on full display. But, I mean, we got the matchup we wanted to see. We got 3 great players, 2 with LSU and 1 with Iowa. And it was a great game, but Iowa just pulled away. I think they had the tougher team down the stretch. And then you look at the USC and Connecticut game. I mean, what more can you say about that game?
We talk a lot about the Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese matchup, rightfully so. It's a rematch of the national championship game and all of the controversy and conversation that came out of the national championship game last year with Angel Reese pointing to her ring finger to Caitlin Clark, and it just kind of became this Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark media. But Juju Watkins versus Paige Beckers.
Yeah.
That's just as good as what you've gotten from Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Those are 2 certified stars. The comeback story for Paige Beckers, coming back from injury. Juju Watkins, the 2nd leading scorer in the nation, only behind Caitlin Clark, and she's a freshman. Like, that USC team's not going anywhere.
No, and I enjoyed this game more because we got a chance to watch the two marquee players go up against one another, Paige Becker and Juju. You never saw Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese go up against because they play two different positions.
Right.
You know, Angel's much taller and bigger than Caitlin.
Angel's going to post up in the paint, and she's going to be right there to snag whatever rebound she needs to.
Absolutely. So, but the Juju and Paige matchup, I mean, but it shows you that, experience does matter because you saw the experience of a UConn team led by a legendary coach in Gino. You saw the experience like in the third and fourth period start to come. Even though USC made a run in the fourth period, it was like UConn with Paige Becker just shut it down. They paid attention to detail. Gino called timeouts when he needed to call timeouts to slow the game down just when USC was getting on the roll. And it was a well-coached game. I think by both, but really by Gino because he did some things within that game to stop USC's momentum.
There's a reason why Gino Auriemma is known as one of the best college basketball coaches, women's and men's, period.
Just think about this. He had been to, 15 straight Final Fours. The only year they didn't go, I believe, is when Paige Becker got hurt last season.
Yeah.
Now she's back healthy, and they're back in the Final Four. So they've been in the Final Four, 15 years. They've been in the Final Four 15 out of the 16 years, that Gino has been coaching. He's been coaching longer than that, but they've gone 15 straight up into a point, and then Paige Becker got hurt last year. They didn't go. Now they're back in it this year. So it's going to be a hell of a matchup.
Yeah.
When is it? Friday? This Friday?
Friday and Saturday, I believe.
You got South Carolina versus North Carolina State. And then you have Iowa versus UConn. Yeah, so it's going to be, if y'all haven't seen these four teams play this year, then y'all need to watch Friday because it's going to be two hell of a games, meaning Iowa and UConn, and then South Carolina and NC State.
Couple of heavyweight matchups last night, a couple of heavyweight matchups that we have in store this weekend. I do want to get back into this conversation because it wasn't just a fun night of really good games to watch. I think it was also a massive day for the sport in and of itself because you bring up UConn and the dominance, this run that UConn and Gino Auriemma have gone on over the last 15, 20 plus years. But that has almost become like a secondary or even tertiary storyline because there are so many other competitive and dominant teams, whether it's Iowa and Caitlin Clark, whether it's, South Carolina, what Dawn Staley has built. There are so many exciting storylines going on in women's basketball right now, and it feels like the sport is just ballooning. So I absolutely do want to get back into this conversation, but I did want to start here. Again, we'll catch up with PK Subban in 1 hour. Normally, we'll catch up with Tim Hasselbeck at noon on Tuesdays. We'll catch up with him later this week. D-Mase, but it is now April 2nd, which means it is NFL draft month, and we are just a few weeks away from the NFL draft, and we've got all of the NFL draft gurus and the draft insiders, Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper, all of these NFL.com, ESPN athletic writers that are putting out their big boards, and they're putting out their third and fourth and fifth and 11th and 12th mock draft. It seems like every single day, especially this month, there's a new mock draft. But I was just kind of doing a look around because we've touched on mock drafts and we've talked, about the draft ad nauseum. But I wanted to see if the conversations that we were having about the draft and the Titans' priorities, what the Titans should do, what the Titans shouldn't do, I was intrigued to see if the most recent mock drafts from some of the top draft gurus kind of aligned with the conversations that we were having. So I took a look at 5 mock drafts from draft insiders, draft gurus. First and foremost, I looked at the most recent athletic mock draft, and this was, a full athletic staff mock draft, not necessarily one specific person. Looked to see what the Titans were going to do, or at least what the athletic mock draft had the Titans doing at 7. The athletic has Joe Alt going at 7. 3 quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, and then the next 3, the 3 wide receivers. I can't remember exactly what order it was. I believe it was Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and then Rome Odunze at 6. I think that's a very likely outcome, where 3 quarterbacks, 3 receivers, Joe Alt's waiting for you there at 7. Looked at Matt Miller's most recent mock draft on ESPN.com. Joe Alt at 7. He has 4 quarterbacks going in the top 6, Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison. Rome Odunze on the board. The Titans go Joe Alt. Mel Kiper's most recent mock draft. You want to take a guess?
Joe Alt.
Joe Alt at 7. He's got 3 quarterbacks and 3 receivers going in the top 6. Field Yates, his most recent mock draft. Care to venture, I guess?
Joe Alt.
Joe Alt at
100,
7.
please.
He's got 4 quarterbacks going in the top 6, 2 receivers, Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors with a Rome Odunze on the board. Titans go Joe Alt. Daniel Jeremiah. Now, this one is the kicker because he has the Titans taking Joe Alt at 7. He's got the 3 quarterbacks going off the board and then the 3 receivers. So this is just 5 random mock drafts. I looked at The Athletic, I looked at ESPN.com, and every single one has the Titans taking Joe Alt at 7. Is it that simple, D-Mase?
Well, right now it's that simple. Prior to draft day, it's that simple for, you to look at, the teams. It's easier to, I think it's easier to slot 1 through 10 than it is 1 through 32 or 11 through 32.
Yeah, totally.
It's a little bit easier to slot those. So
especially with the quarterbacks kind of fitting in as
because
puzzle pieces.
you figure, top 3 teams need quarterbacks. So you figure they're taking, if 2 of the 3, somebody may jump up to get a quarterback. You just never know. But you look at the teams and and you look at what they need in regards to personnel, the biggest need. And it's easy to say, well, not Chicago, but if Chicago trades out of their first pick, and, which they won't, they're going to get Caleb Williams, but they take Caleb Williams, okay? We know he's going 1. And then whether it's Jaden Daniels or Drake May is 2, and then whoever doesn't get drafted at 2, they go 3. So it's easy to sort of pick those 3 because all 3 of those teams that are at the top need quarterbacks. And then you sort of, who's that 4th pick? That 4th pick is the wild card. Because even though Arizona needs a wide receiver, do they take a wide receiver? Or do they move down to accumulate draft and another team?
A quarterback-needy team, I think, would be the kicker here.
Move up to get either a quarterback or they say, yeah, listen, we want one of those receivers. And Arizona's like, listen, we don't care which receiver we get, whether it's Harrison, Neighbors, or Odunze. Whichever one we get, we're fine. But we are comfortable enough to move out of this spot and allow somebody else so we can get some draft capital. So that's probably the only thing that can throw the draft off a little bit. But from what we've seen, I think everybody, the consensus, unless there's an outlier out there, but the consensus is, the 3 quarterbacks, wide receivers, and then there's the Titans at 7. So it's easy to pick. It's easy to say the Titans are going to take this tackle at number 7 right now. But the day of the draft is not that easy because there's a lot of moving parts. Right now, nobody wants to move. Nobody wants to make any trades to move up. Nobody wants to do anything right now. They rather do it the day before the draft or the night of the draft. I don't want to do it now. So
why do it now?
Exactly. Why do it now?
Lose all your leverage.
Exactly. I lose leverage, and then you know what I want to do. So I will do it on draft day if I want to move up or move back. So you're not going to start seeing the complications until draft day.
It's never that simple.
No, it's not.
We know it. We know the draft too well to know that it is never as simple as maybe a lot of mock drafts might make it out to be. Now, I looked at 5 mock drafts. There's probably 5 billion mock drafts out there on the internet.
I think my son has a mock draft. I don't know.
I have one. You have one. Nick has one. Willie has one. PK Subban's joining the show. He probably has one. Everyone's got a mock draft. I looked at 5. It's a small sample size. But of the 5 that I looked at, they all have one of 2 scenarios shaking out. It's either first top 3 picks are quarterbacks, and the next 3 picks are receivers, and the Titans take Joe Alt at 7, or the top 4 picks are quarterbacks, the next 2 picks are receivers, and the Titans take Joe Alt at 7. There is no way that it is that simple. And I was listening to Chase and Big Joe on my drive in, and I heard Joe saying, look, take the sure thing. Just keep it simple. Take Joe Alt.
Yeah.
It's much more complicated than that.
I wish it was that simple because I would just take Joe Alton as well.
Because it could be as simple as that. It
Exactly.
could be as simple as Joe Alt's on the board. He's the best player available. He fills an incredibly important need, and you take him at 7, and then hooray, hurrah, ideally you have your left tackle for the next 10 to 15 years. That would be great, and if it worked out that way, then awesome. I think we'd all feel a lot more comfortable with this offensive line if that's how it panned out. But it is never that simple. Because I asked TD this question. He joined our show yesterday. I asked him, is it really as simple as the Titans just taking a left tackle at 7? This is what TD had to say.
No, it shouldn't be left tackle or nothing. You never go into a draft pinpointing a singular position as that one that you want in the round. That's how you end up with picks that you reach and they don't fulfill the potential. And you put a prospect in a bad situation himself. So you should go best player available, see how it matches need, and obviously the quarterback situation changes that a bit, but position players otherwise, that's how you approach it.
It's never that simple.
No, it's never that simple. It's never as simple as, oh, Joe Alt's there. We're going to get Joe Alt. Nah, maybe, when before the draft is simple. But during the draft, and days leading up to it, it's not that simple because what if somebody chooses to take Joe Alt at 5 or 6? Then what are you going to do, Titans? I'm sure that they have a contingency plan. I'm not saying this with the thought of, what will the Titans do if they can't get Joe Alt? No, I think they have. That's why I asked TD yesterday about J.C. Latham. How high of a ceiling does GMs have for him? Because this is a massive guy, 6'8", 300 and, 50, 60, 70 pounds.
Yeah.
Tremendous upside. TD did talk about the penalties, but if they can sort of, eliminate some of those penalties, you're talking about a guy that has the potential to be a tackle that can be your starter for 10, 12, 15 years.
Right.
So they have to have a contingency plan because I do believe they need a tackle. And I can't see them, it would be a total surprise if they went outside of the tackle. Now, they may have to, if Joe Alt's not there, they may choose to move back, accumulate picks, but still be able to get their tackle. But I do believe they need a tackle this draft in the first round. I do believe there are a few of them out there that I'm sure have first round grades. Now, is there a big gap between Alt and Fashanu? Is there a big gap between Alt and Latham or some of these other tackles that are projected first rounds? That's what I would love to know, because if there isn't, then okay, if Alt's gone, I'm not worried. I still can get the tackle I want. I may be able to move down 3 or 4 spots and still get the guy that I want. So I'm in agreement with TD in regards to, don't pigeonhole yourself to one person. Not necessarily one position, but one person. But you do need a tackle, and there are enough first-round graded tackles that you can get if Alt is gone. But it may put you in a position where now you can trade back a few spots, pick up some draft picks, and still get the guy you want.
I'm with you to a certain extent. It does feel like the Titans have to take a left tackle in the first round, right?
Yeah, unless they supplement it through free agency or something like that. But I don't see.
I don't see.
I want a long-term fix. I don't want to let's put a Band-Aid on it for a year or two and let this guy. No, I want a guy that we draft now, and I don't have to put him away. I don't have to worry about him. Now I can go on to other positions.
Because if this is going to be the offseason of doing everything that you can to help Will Levis and protect Will Levis and set Will Levis up for success, putting a Band-Aid on the left tackle position doesn't really address that that objective of the offseason, which I think is what the objective of the offseason is, or at least should be for the Tennessee Titans, is what do we need to give Will Levis to succeed? So I'm with you there, but I'm in 100% agreement with TD that you cannot go into the first round of the draft saying we have to get a left tackle or nothing. Because what if Joe Alt goes at 5? And what if you have Ola Fashanu? And let me just pull out a random number. What if you have him graded as the 15th best player in the NFL draft? Can you take the 15th best player at the 7th overall pick, assuming that if Joe Alt goes before 7, that there's a Malik Neighbors or a Roma Dunze or a Marvin Harrison Jr. available at 7? Can you do that in good faith?
I think you're going to have to. I think the decisions you make, it has to be in good faith. It has to be a confident decision that if Alt's not there, and say, Fashano, you have him rated as the 15th best player in the NFL draft. Mm-hmm. Listen, 15 out of 300 and something, that's an A+. If I'm 15 out of 300 and some other draft potential players, I'm an A+.
It's a good player.
It's a damn good player. So to me, it's, yes, I am not going to get married to one guy. But that position is a position of dire need. That's a position, that's like the quarterback position for the Titans right now. Even though there's still a question mark for Will Levis. I get that. But the left tackle position is like the quarterback position for the Titans.
I hear you.
Because that's the guy they need. Because they feel, okay, at least to give our quarterback an opportunity, we go out and get a receiver. We go out and get another running back. We go out and get a center. Mm-hmm. Now we need to give him a left tackle. Because we can't figure anything out if we don't get him a left tackle that can play. Not a plug-in. Mm-hmm. But not a guy that a temporary guy. I'm talking about a long fix that can play right along with Will Levis if he turns out to be that guy. That's why I am so big, because I understand how valuable that position is when it comes to a quarterback. It is the most valuable position, even more so than receiver. And we know how receivers are getting paid. Next to the quarterback, that left tackle is the next most important position, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
I hear you. 100%. Mm-hmm. And if the Titans didn't take a left tackle in the first round of the draft, I'd have a lot of questions about, hey, now what the heck are you doing at left tackle?
Because you can even move back. And if you still have these guys rated as top 20 players, mm-hmm. these tackles outside of Alt, then you can move back. And I know it's easier said than done, but you can move back and still get those guys. But then it's finding a trade partner. Mm-hmm. Because some of those teams that you want to move back to, they may be thinking the same thing as you. Well, I can get my guy at the spot I'm at. I don't need to trade with you mm-hmm. to move up because I don't think nobody's going to get the guy we want.
Well, let's answer that question coming up. We'll continue the conversation. And the question is, let's say if the Titans don't take a left tackle at 7. They trade back or they go a completely different position at 7 if there's a Malik Neighbors available or even a Dallas Turner that's available at 7, because defensive line absolutely is a position of need for the Titans as well. So if the Titans don't go left tackle or offensive line at 7, are there quality offensive line options available later in the draft or potentially at 38 with the Titans' second-round pick? We'll get into that coming up next. We'll get into your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, we're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Yeah, I think J.C. Latham is a guy that they, like a few other teams, have right there with Joe Alt. And the big thing with Latham is just the penalties. If he could get that penalties, get that down, then you got something that you're cooking with. And that's where a guy like Bill Callahan will come into play so much. So you got him. It's interesting. I didn't really get too much feedback about Jordan Morgan, right? And he's a guy with short arms. They kind of don't know for sure if he's a guard or tackle. A lot of teams have talked to him about both. So you have him.
That was Sharon Davenport on our show yesterday. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase for broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Now, our studio today is Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena because the Predators take on the Boston Bruins tonight. But D-Maze,
Yes.
I almost wish we were at the studio today. As much as I love being at Bridgestone Arena, because we have those brand new countertops in the bathroom and in the kitchen.
Looks good.
It looks really good.
That's good.
It looks really really great. So shout out to our friends over at Eurostone for taking care of new renovations at the studio. Check them out at eurostonetn.com. Eurostonetn.com. They did a fantastic job at the station. So if you need new countertops in your kitchen, in your bathroom, wherever you might need them, check them out at eurostonetn.com. So that was TD on the left tackle situation. You asked him specifically about J.C. Latham. And I'll ask you, D-Mase.
Yes.
You need a left tackle and you need it desperately. And we know that not all tackles in a draft, not all players in a draft, and not all positions where you draft are created equally. If the Titans decide to forego left tackle at 7, let's say they go defense and they take a Dallas Turner at 7, or let's say one of the receivers is available and they decide to go Roma Dunze or Malik Neighbors at 7, how much confidence would you have in a left tackle being taken with the 38th overall pick?
Wow. I mean, I'm sure, because I'm trying to look now. Jordan Morgan out of Arizona would more than likely probably be somewhere around there. Guyton out of Oklahoma, Barton out of Duke. So I'm just looking at guys outside of the kid from BYU that TD wasn't talking about him yesterday. He was talking about another kid, Kinsley. I think that's who he was talking about. I can't pronounce the kid's last name from BYU.
Yeah.
So there's going to be guys that if you don't get that tackle in the first round, then you're more than likely you can double back and get that left tackle in the second round. The Titans have need offensive line, D-line, linebacker. They need another safety. Again, wide receiver to me, after going out and getting Calvin Ridley, after, signing D-Hop last year to a 2-year deal, you have Traylon, you signed Nick Westbrook-Akine back. Right now, do they need to add a receiver? Yes, they do need to add a receiver. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they need to add a receiver in the first round, nor the second round. That position for this season, because they can always double back next year and get them a receiver or two. That receiver that position is not of dire need now that you got Calvin Ridley. Before the Ridley, there was the talk, hey, is it Alt or is it a Dunze or Neighbors? Which one? Mm-hmm. If they're there, who are you taking? Well, they went out and got Calvin Ridley. That solved the problem for me, at least now, for the short term. Now what you got to do is you got to address some other places where you don't have a bona fide starter. Left tackle, you need another one on the defensive line, and you need a linebacker. So to me, I'm not getting a first-round receiver. First-round defensive lineman, there's a possibility, yes.
What if, and I'll just a hypothetical situation, Roma Dunze at 7, and you think that Roma Dunze is the next Justin Jefferson?
If he's the next Justin Jefferson, he won't be there at number 7. if people believe he's the next Justin Jefferson, he will not be there at number 7. Again, okay, if he's there, then if he's there and one of the two tackles that you have rated high are not there, mm-hmm. then okay, because if you're taking the chance of moving past a guy that many have as the second best receiver in the draft, whether it's Neighbors or Dunze. You're talking about passing by one of these guys. That's hard to do.
Yeah. And
It's-
that's the really difficult
hard to
catch-22
do.
you have.
But
Or that you could be faced with, rather.
that hard decision, there's the hard decision between a guy like that and somebody else. But then, to me, what is the decision for need? The decision for need would be outside the left tackle. Would be, I don't mind if they would draft a defensive lineman. If you felt one of these defensive linemen, whether it's Dallas Turner or one of these other guys, then take them, because why? That's a position where you gotta fill. You don't have to fill wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. You don't, because you have it. You have that right now. Are you you looking for something in the future? Absolutely, you are. But as you sit now, your top 2 wide receivers, at least the top 2, they're solidified. You know who they are. It's that 3 and 4 that you know who they are, but you're trying to figure out how much production am I going to get out of that position. I think they will get more production out of that 3rd receiver this year than they got last year, at least in my mind. So with that being said, I can't draft a receiver in the first round. I know how tempting it is, and this is just me. Now, what Rand chooses to do, and the Titans, they may choose to say, hey, listen, we need a receiver.
We need playmakers.
So let's
say.
draft them since Alton's not there. But there's too many other holes that need filling. The receiver doesn't need filling. It's one of those, okay, got this. Okay, I need to get that, but okay, let me double back. But I need to get this. That's one of them. I can get back to it in round 2, possibly round 4, if I don't make a trade to get into round 3. So, if not offensive tackle, I wouldn't mind taking a defensive lineman, because you need them.
If it's a Dallas Turner,
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with
You're
that.
taking them. If it's, a linebacker, but what linebacker is considered, a top 10 pick?
That's the thing. I
There's
don't know
no
how many
linebackers out there
defensive players are viewed as top
10
players
picks.
in this draft.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So, if Alt's not there, or one of these, and I don't want to say if Alt's not there, because it's not about one person. If that tackle you love, or one of the 2 tackles you really like, isn't there, then what do you do?
Well, that's the question.
Yeah.
That if you go another position, receiver, Dallas Turner, a defensive player, whoever it might be, if you don't go left tackle at 7, how confident do you feel in a left tackle that could be your solution at the left tackle position, a plug-and-play starting left tackle for the Titans this upcoming season? I asked TD that question because TD watches the film. TD does all the breakdowns. TD is our own personal draft guru. This is what TD had to say about the tackle draft.
I would say mid-second round. So if you don't do it at 38, you're, getting in a situation where you're going to have to, get creative. I think that's really the case. I think Patrick Paul is probably that's the cutoff point. You got Troy Fautano, who's going to be in the, mid to late first. Talise Fuaga, he's probably going to go in that same round. It's interesting. The Jets want to move back, apparently. I had saw him going to them at 10, but, I think Brock Bowers, now that they signed Tyler Smith, I think he's somebody. So, yeah, I would say that mid-second round, probably around 45 to 50. So there should still be a legitimate tackle there for them at 38.
So TD says you could have your starting left tackle, and you can find that starting left tackle at 38. And initially that would give me some pause, because you and I both know that the 7th overall pick is not created equally as the 25th overall pick or the 38th overall pick or the 50th overall pick. So that would give me concern that if the offensive line has been your problem, and if you want to address the offensive line to protect your young quarterback, then you would prioritize that position with your first overall pick, or your first pick in the draft, rather. But I think there's also an X factor here that at least we haven't been considering enough, or I haven't been considering enough. The Bill Callahan effect. How much does he play a role into this? That can the Titans look at it and say, look, we have a game-changing, generational kind of player available to us at number 7 that's not at the left tackle position, but we have so much faith in our offensive line coach, who is perceived to be one of the best, if not the best in the NFL, that we feel like we can wait on a left tackle and he can be coached up to a certain threshold because we believe so much in the X factor in Bill Callahan?
Yeah, you have to take that into consideration because it's not like you're asking Bill Callahan to take a bad player and make him a good player. As good as Bill Callahan is, you can't take a bad player and make them a good player. You just can't do it. And if you do, it's going to take you 5, 6, 7 years to get that person to where you want them to be in regards to the football world. It takes a while for these guys to learn. If you're just a bad player, you're a bad player. So in that situation, it's like okay. But you got to trust that Bill Callahan's evaluation of these players, whether it's Joe Alt, whether it's Latham, whether it's Fashanu, some of these you got to trust his evaluation of those players. And if you trust his evaluation of those players, you have to be confident that whoever I draft, whether it's at 7 or 38, or if we move down in the draft and we move down to 15, wherever we move in the draft and we choose to get a tackle, I have confidence because he scouted these guys. He understands them. He's had conversations with them. I have too, but he's the guru.
Yeah.
I trust that if I take this guy at 15 or 38, after listening to Bill Callahan, I trust that he's going to get this guy right. That I do got to trust.
It's the scouting and the coaching.
Exactly. It's
Both,
the scouting and the
I think, are
coaching. You
huge.
scouted him. You saw some things. Can you now coach those bad things out of him? Because if you can, and if you tell me you can, I'm believing you. Because you're considered one of the best, if not the best, offensive line coach in football today. So if you tell me you can get these bad things out of him, I'm believing you and I'm drafting him. But if you tell me you can't, then I'm passing by him. I'm going by him. I'm going to either the next guy or I'm going to a different position. So I think that does come in to play.
We've got a bunch of thoughts on the Titans, what they do in the first round. Again, I looked at 5 different mock drafts. The Athletic, Matt Miller from ESPN, Mel Kiper from ESPN, Field Yates from ESPN, and Daniel Jeremiah of NFL.com. All 5 of them have the Titans taking Joe Alt at 7. But it can't be that simple. It never is that simple. So we'll get into your thoughts on that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to get in on the conversation. Also, Titans' new cornerback, L'Jarius Sneed, is up at the podium and speaking with the media now, but he will join our show right at 1 p.m. So we'll catch up with L'Jarius Sneed at 1 p.m. PK Subban joining the show at noon. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Hey, if your bracket's not looking so good, then don't worry about it. We've got one final chance for you to win some great prizes with the 1025 The Game 4-Team Bracket Challenge. Go to theGameNashville.com/bracket challenge and fill out your 4-team bracket to compete to win prizes, including tickets to see Creed at Ascend Amphitheater on August 13th. The 1025 The Game Bracket Challenge brought to you by ESPN Bet Sportsbook, Twin Peaks, and Volunteer Hose and Gasket. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game and the Game Nashville app. PK Subban is back in Nashville, and he will join us here in just a few moments. L'Jarius Sneed is up at the podium speaking to the media, but he will join our show at 1 p.m. So we'll catch up with Titans' new cornerback, L'Jarius Sneed, in just over 1 hour. Willy Donick joins the program. Willy D, how was morning skate? How we doing?
It was good, and I have to say, I was not requesting Milli Vanilli this morning, but I kind of enjoyed hearing a little Milli Vanilli right there. A little throwback day right there.
You're welcome,
call,
Willy.
Oh, yeah, nice job, Nick.
Good call.
Don't lose my number, okay? Don't lose my number.
Willy, we were just talking about your favorite thing when you were gone, which is mock drafts.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I love mock drafts.
Love mock drafts.
You know what, though? We have made it to April without overdoing it. So I feel like I'm okay. I have battery juice for this. I can make it until the draft day with this.
That is what I'd love to hear.
I feel good about it.
Because
Yeah.
there
That is what
will
I'd
be
love to
like
hear.
at least 40 more mock drafts that
Absolutely,
come out.
absolutely. But bring it on. Bring it on. I'm ready for it. Okay, because I've held off until now. We have not gone to that well.
No.
So the well is plentiful, I think.
Yeah,
I think
let's
we're
go.
ready to talk mock drafts now.
I was
do it.
on with Robbie and Joe this morning, and Joe was like, man, I'm loving all this college basketball talk. And Robbie was like, yeah, well, don't get used to it because we got like a few more days of it left, and then it's NFL draft
Right,
talk.
right.
We're hitting the ground
Yeah.
running.
So we'll pace ourselves.
Yes.
But I looked at 5 different mock drafts across ESPN and The Athletic. All 5 of them have the Titans taking Joe Alt at 7. And while I think that's a very likely possibility, we know it's never really that simple. So I wanted to get into your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have a thought on that, and our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Wes in a Hermitage is on the line with a thought on the Titans. What's up, Wes?
Oh, man, how y'all doing on this beautiful day out here in Nashville?
Good.
Yikes.
Yeah, stay safe out there.
Man, it's crazy. D-Mase, I keep hearing you harping on this left tackle, man, and I was the same way for the long time. So I got to ask you, take yourself back to playing for the Titans, and your right-hand man, veteran guy, best friend in the locker room comes up to you and sits down. I'm talking off-season-wise, and he says, man, what do we do? So I ask you, man, on that team, would you have rather had a Trent Williams, Laramie Tunsil, or a Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill? Because I get it. I understand. But I want Joe Alt. And if he's there, we should take him. The only reason why I think we shouldn't is if there is a Marvin Harrison, a Dunze's there, something like that. That's the only way I think we pass on.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Wes.
Wes.
Appreciate it. Back then, we had our Joe Hall. We had B-Hop. He was our tackle. He was a guy they plugged and played. Obviously, you know, I wasn't there with him his rookie year or his second year. But once we got here at Nashville, we didn't have to think about a left tackle. I never
It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, I never once, you know, especially as I became a veteran player, I never once looked at my left side and said, damn, we sure do need another left tackle. Heck no, we had one of the best left tackles in the NFL in Brad Hopkins. And then we had a guard, we had a center, we had a right tackle, we had a right guard. I mean, we had it all.
Yeah.
We didn't have
Bruce
to worry.
Matthews, legend.
We didn't have to worry about that stuff. Those were good old days. Well, we didn't have to worry about the offensive line. And when you don't have to worry about the offensive line, then life is much better. But I understand what Wes is saying. You know, yes, you have that offensive lineman there, that tackle there that you love. But then one of these players, as you mentioned, Caroline, you know, a Marvin Harrison or Neighbors that people are looking at it. These are bona fide, you know, players. These are guys you plug and they play right away. And they're going to be valuable to you in regards to what you're doing offensively. They're going to be one of your key players. I understand all of that. But, again, I go back to how do you build a team beside the quarterback? You don't build it with a wide receiver. You don't build it with a running back anymore. You don't build it with a secondary player. You don't build it with a defensive lineman, even though there are some great defensive linemen out there. You build it through the offensive line, and it starts with the left tackle and your center. You get those two solidified, then you're going to benefit in the long run from that. So I always go back to that. They need a left tackle. Now, if out there, I'm not going to press it, but if I have an opportunity to move down and still be able to get one of these offensive linemen that I want, then that's what I'm doing. But I need a tackle. That's what I need.
I would say this goes into line with all the mock drafts that we see right now. We see it so heavily slanted towards all. Most of the mock drafts, I would say, towards this point, are the expert looking at the needs of the team and how he has the players evaluated. What we haven't gotten to yet, and this is what always happens in the weeks, the couple of weeks leading up, is that information starts swirling around, rumors. I'm putting out information, but maybe it's false information.
Right.
But that starts influencing the drafts or the mock drafts, right? You'll see one mock draft and say, well, I'm really hearing that this team's going to trade up and get a quarterback, and that would bump Alt down, or that would leave Harrison there. You're going to. So I think you will start to see differing opinions on the mock drafts here soon. It just happens every year.
It happens every year, and especially with the quarterbacks and J.J. McCarthy getting all of this, this love and this hype. And I've seen several mock drafts with him going as high as 4, being the 4th player off the board.
But isn't this the same thing we were watching slowly with Will Levis?
Absolutely.
Like the same
There's a Will
exact
Levis most years.
thing.
Yeah. Oh,
I'll never
absolutely.
forget poor Drew Lock when the draft was here in Nashville. We had a wonderful person who allowed my son and his buddy, and I got to go with them because we got to go backstage to where all the families were, and we watched as Drew Lock was sitting there with his family, kind of like Will Levis was last year. So there's usually a guy like that that just, for whatever reason, he's picked in all these mock drafts to go one place, and he waits. Like Aaron Rodgers waited for a long time. It turned out to
Lamar
turn out pretty
Jackson
well.
waited.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a J.J. McCarthy or Will Levis in any draft. Every draft, every year, there's going to be that one guy that people say is moving up the charts. And then once you get to draft day, it's like, where's this guy at? He ends up getting drafted in the second round. So there are things they can throw the draft off. I get it.
Totally. Trades.
Trades and everything else. But,
Titans included.
But if left tackle is the position, tackle is the position you want to address, and because you got to have more than just Joe Alt on your board at left tackle. Now, we discussed how far is that? How big is that gap between Alt and the next guy or the next 2 guys? That would determine whether I stay at 7 if Alt's not there, or if I move back and still be able to get one of those 2 tackles.
Right, because if you look at, let's say, you look at Olaf Fashanu as, right there, just as good as Joe Alt. Well, that's a different conversation than it's Joe Alt and then everybody else is way far down on our draft board. That's a completely different conversation. Mark in Paris Wes in Clarksville texts in, says, I'd be getting Brock Bowers at 7 and a tackle later on. Brock is a game changer.
I think you're going to have those. You're going to have those people. That's the wild card, don't you think? Really, for every team, is where do we take this guy? Because he's the interesting guy. If you've watched college football at all, you had to have noticed him, right? You're like, wow, this is a different guy.
Oh yeah. He was just a different. When you saw him play, you knew he was either the best player on the field or one of the 3 or 4 best players on the field.
Screwing up the matchups for the defense every game. Like, what do we do about this?
Yeah, but I couldn't draft him at a 7, knowing that I need other help around my team. I can't draft him at 7.
I would. I
can't.
Because Brock Bowers, I know he's a tight end, but he's so much more than that. He is a monster. Like if you told me today that Brock Bowers would end up being Travis Kelce, I would take him in a heartbeat, tight end or not.
Of course.
But of course, you never get that
you never know. If you told me it was going to be that or any one of these great tight ends that have come through the NFL, it's like, okay, I'll take it.
100%. All right, 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get back into your thoughts. But coming up next, the Predators taking on the Boston Bruins. Predators, 2-game losing streak after that 18-game point streak. They have 15 goals in their last 2 games. What do the Predators have to do to get back to their winning ways? Plus, PK Subban is back in Nashville. We'll catch up with PK Subban on the other side. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. And we're live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena because the Predators take on the Boston Bruins tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock, pregame coverage starting at 6 p.m. on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Also, here we're in the arena, so I can't hear anything going on outside. Apparently, there is bad hail and thunder, bad weather rolling through if it hasn't already. So be safe if you can stay home. Try to stay home as best as you possibly can.
And pay close attention to the reports around you. Check your. I always say Nashville severe weather on your Twitter.
It's the
always
best
good.
Twitter account.
They're so good at details and stuff like that. It's a great way to check. Don't do it while you're driving in the hail, but pull over, check it. Like, just be sure. Be sure, because there's too much going on.
A lot going on. Stay safe out there. We'll catch up with PK Subban here in just a few moments. He is back in Nashville. I want to get PK's perspective of what this team has accomplished in the last 20 games, because I know Predators fans are ready to hit the panic button because you've lost 2 games in a row, but I promise you it is not time to panic. But this is a big one tonight, and this is a big week. You got the Boston Bruins rolling into town tonight. You've got the St. Louis Blues that are creeping up and beat Edmonton last night after losing to the Sharks 4-0. I did not see that coming. Big win for St. Louis. But tonight, I want to couch everything that I'm saying with, I still feel really good about the Predators making the playoffs. I've said it, and I will continue to say it. The Predators are going to make the playoffs. But tonight, Willy, I think that this one is a big one to get that edge back, to get that fire back. We haven't seen the Predators play with that kind of edge and fire against the Coyotes and against the Colorado Avalanche. They went up 2-0 against the Coyotes, and it felt like they just kind of kicked their feet up and thought, okay, got this one taken care of, and they paid for it. Against the Colorado Avalanche, they came out, and it was a really fast start, but they just simply couldn't finish. I want to see that same tenacity, that same edge that they played with in that 18-game point streak. Whether that shows up in the win and loss column, whether it's an overtime loss and you're able to pick up a point, of course you're going to feel better if you get a point or even 2 tonight against the Boston Bruins. You win tonight, you beat St. Louis on Thursday, it feels like the job is as good as done. But beyond that, I just want to see the Predators get back to that level of play that we know that they can play with.
I agree, and I think you're right to point out, when you're playing a team like the Bruins, you could play really well and still come up short.
They're a very good team.
Because the Bruins are just that good, and they're very tough to score against. They do everything well. Their special teams are both in the top 10. So you've got a major, major challenge with a cup contender. And I would imagine you're going to have a Bruins team that's focused. They know what happened to them last year. They had the unbelievable run in the regular season, only to lose in the first round. So they're going to be hungry for sure. They're trying to win a division title to give themselves the best draw going into the first round. So it's not like they're going to coast to the finish line, I don't think. So you're going to have to play well to get points tonight. You mentioned St. Louis's win last night. That was a big win for them to bounce back after, they could have they got booed off the ice.
Yeah.
They lost to the Sharks, which is not easy to do. And it's the way they lost. They lost 4-0. They didn't score against the Sharks, the team that gives up the most goals in the league. So to bounce back and beat a team like the Oilers, that's going to get them back. They're only 3 points behind the Kings, the Blues are. So they feel like they're in it, and when they come here Thursday, they're going to be in it. For the Predators' standpoint, their magic number is 8. So 8 points that they get or the Blues don't get. So obviously that head-to-head on Thursday is going to mean a lot. But tonight you've got a great challenge. You can do it yourself, right? You're getting back pressure. That may not be the worst thing, right? To keep, like you say, keep looking forward, playing well. I heard Andrew Burnett's comments. He goes, I want to just drive forward. Don't worry about everything else. I want us to drive towards the finish line here, take care of it ourselves, play our game, and he feels like the results will be there, right, if they do that.
Yep.
Beside the first unit, what do you need to see from the other guys?
And
what would be the matchup that you're looking at that is going to say, okay, if they do this, then they will win or they should win?
I think, number one, Bruno said yesterday, we have lost the game on the margins a little bit. He said, there's a lot of things that our team is still doing well. He liked what they did in a lot of sections of the game. I don't think there's any question. He and a lot of his colleagues were not happy with the McDonough call. That sort of set things in the other direction
Yeah.
against Colorado. So there were some good things that they liked in that game. But he said on the margins, we've got to do better. Couple less penalties that you don't need to take at that time. Discipline, which has been a strength up until these last couple of games. You know, obviously he's not going to ever say anything about the goaltending, but I think it's clear if you ask Kevin Lankin and UC Saros, how did you guys think you played? I think they could both say, well, I could have played a little bit better. I could have made another big save here and there. Maybe that changes the game. That would be big. Against the Bruins, the big thing that the Bruins do, they limit the chances. They play a lot of low-scoring games. The Bruins have had, I think, 25 games go to overtime. So the lower-scoring games are the ones that tend to go to overtime. So they don't mind a 2-1 game where there's not a lot of ice open. So I think you got to be opportunistic. They have two excellent goalies that they basically rotate, and they get good goaltending. They play tough defense, and they feel like, all right, we got enough scores. We'll get enough goals if we hold the other team to 2 on a lot of nights or less. So I think that's the challenge: is can you get quality offense against the Bruins, and then on the other side, can you get the key saves against a guy like David Pastrnak who can turn nothing into something? Right? He's just that good of a shooter.
And I think it's also a challenge in and of itself that you just don't play the Boston Bruins very much. You don't see them.
It seems
very
like forever
frequently.
ago.
Yeah.
It does. It feels like an odd matchup at this point in the season. You know, fast forward to Thursday against St. Louis. Like, that's a team that you're familiar with. That's a team that there's some serious juice in terms of the Western Conference standings. But as far as the Bruins are concerned, it's just not a team that you see very frequently. It's not a team that you're very familiar with, which presents new challenges. Obviously, it's challenges on the Bruins side as well, because you don't see the Bruins don't see the Predators very frequently. But I think the other thing as well is the Bruins are very much still playing for a lot. Have the Bruins already clinched the playoffs?
They've clinched the playoffs, so what they're trying to do
But
is
they still got standings and seeding that they're playing for.
they're playing for seeding. They're 2 points ahead of the Florida Panthers, and if you win that division, you're going to play probably, unless they're 3 points behind the Rangers for number 1 overall seed in the East. So right now, the Bruins would play the Lightning, who are likely going to be, I mean, it's almost locked. The Lightning will be wild card 1. So not that that's an easy first-round matchup at all, but the Lightning are a level down, I think. If you look at their stats. They're still really good, but they're not quite as deep as they were when they were winning the Cups. You look all across the league, ex-Lightning guys who they just couldn't keep with the salary cap, like Ryan McDonough, are on other teams now. So they've traded so many draft picks and stuff to keep their guys and to try to get those extra pieces. So it's catching up to them some. But I think if I'm the Bruins, I would rather play the Lightning. Sounds crazy. But I'd rather play them than somebody like the Maple Leafs, who beat the Lightning last year, and they've got Austin Matthews, who's got 62 goals and counting. The guy just keeps scoring at will, it seems like.
62.
So I think they would like to hold on to that 1 seed and play a wild card.
And Willy, in your opinion, because I look at this game as a get back on track game for the Nashville Predators. You lost that edge. You had that edge. You played with that edge. You haven't played with that edge over the last couple of games. Get back on track and get back to that just tenacity and the toughness that we know that this Predators team can play with. But also, how much of this is a get back on track game for UC Saros? Because I know it was one bad game against Arizona, but still, it was UC Saros that looked like the UC Saros earlier in the season. We were all thinking, like, what is going on? This isn't Saros. When he was, goals were going in that typically UC Saros saves those kind of goals. You only got, 8 games left in the season? Is there a concern level that UC Saros is getting cold at the wrong time?
Yeah, I think tonight you've got your chance to say that was a one-off, right? If he has another subpar game and then one after that, you don't want to think about that. But that's what you would fear if you're Worry Wart Willy, right? Or somebody like that. Yeah, because he was so good, 12-0-2. There's going to be a game or two where you're not super sharp, right? And that was definitely the case on Thursday. So, yeah, I think it's an important game for him and everybody, really, just to try to get back to that winning feeling. But you're going to have to earn it tonight. Like I said, I think you could play really well in this game and lose. You don't want to look bad, right? Yeah. I think to me, if they just we've talked about the underlying numbers, despite the streak, if you go back all year long, what they're getting quality-wise, what they're giving up, most nights they're doing really well in those areas. If they can keep doing that, they might have another bad game or two between now and the end of the season. But they should get at least 4 wins out of the last 8. You would think, right? If you keep putting that product out, you are going to win. There might be a night or two where you don't have it, or you get a bad bounce, or you run up against a really good team. But if you keep that formula, that shape that they've been doing most nights, I think they'll have their share of success.
But in the big picture of things, does it matter whether they get the number 1 spot or the number 2 spot, Willie? Does it matter that much in the big scheme of things? Because either way, wild card 1, because they're going to have to play a good team, whether they're wild card 1 or wild card 2.
I agree.
Or is it just about the travel?
Andrew Burnett was asked that yesterday, and he said, look, we'll take anybody. He said it's hard to make the playoffs. We're not there yet. We'll take whoever they give us in the first round. And so I think if they can clinch, then maybe you start looking around and say, okay, what is the best matchup here? But until you clinch, it's also hard to tell who's going to be in what spot, right? Because Vancouver has recovered after a little bit of a downturn. They've won their last couple. The loss by the Oilers last night, I think, gives you a little better indication that the Canucks will hang on to the division title in the Pacific. And right now with the surprise loss last night, the Avalanche lost to the Blue Jackets last night, which is kind of like, what? Huh?
And Dallas is on a how many game winning streak?
7 in a row. So Dallas right now is looking like they're going to be they've got an inside track on the Central. So it's looking like Dallas Vancouver right now. So with an outside shot that the Avs could still pass Dallas.
I don't want any piece of the Avs. Frankly, nope. I don't. Part of it is travel, and part of it is having to play in that arena. But I'll ask you, what do you think is the most, optimal matchup for the Predators? And it really is. We were talking about this with Elliot when you were gone last week, Willie. It's really like picking your poison.
It definitely
was like, you want electric chair or injection? Like that's really kind of what it feels like, and to say it in a very crass way. But if you're going to have to play one of them, who would you pick?
I think if you take travel out of it, I think the Canucks have, on paper, a little more vulnerability. And one of the things that they're dealing with right now, they have an outstanding goalie, and Thatcher Demko has had a great year, but he has been a little injury-prone in his career, and he is healing up from an injury now. They think he'll play some games before the end of the regular season. But that would be a little concern if I'm Rick Tocchet, their coach, of what am I going to see when Demko comes back? Is he going to be himself? And they were still in that – they're still in that kind of mode of not everybody was picking them to make the playoffs this year. They haven't made the playoffs the last few years. And all of a sudden they're going to be the 1 seed. So there's a little bit of a, what is this team in the playoffs? You've been great in the regular season, but what are we going to see in the playoffs? I think you would have those questions, and you're under the microscope in Vancouver. The thing I don't like about it is you're in that bracket. You're in the Pacific, not only in the first round, but in the second round. So in the second round, you might play somebody like Edmonton, where the flight is still just as long, 2 of the longest flights that you have. And that can wear and tear on you. But again, if Andrew Burnett's sitting there going, look, I'm just glad let's get in there, and we'll see. We'll take whoever they give us. Dallas, on the other hand, shortest flight you could have. And then the next round, you would face 2 other teams, probably from the Central. There, it's likely somebody like it would be the winner of Colorado, Winnipeg, right?
Right.
In theory, that's another ridiculously tough matchup for sure. But the flights aren't ridiculously long there. There's a lot less travel if you're in that bracket. So it is pick your poison, electric chair, or
It's like you'll remember this. It's like back in the late 80s, it's probably the late 80s, where you're in the middleweight division, Willie, and whether I fight Thomas Hearns, whether I fight Sugar Ray Leonard, or then a few years after that, Pernell Whitaker.
Yeah.
Margaret Hager. It doesn't matter which one I fight because it's going to be a hell of a.
You're not catching many breaks.
You're not catching many breaks with either 4 of these guys. One of the 4. You're not catching any breaks. So just bring whichever one you open the door and that person comes out, that's who we fight. That's how the Predator is. Yeah. The Predators are. Whoever they open up that door to the playoffs, whoever we play, we play.
Dallas is an interesting one in that up until the 9-2 game, right, which was a nightmare,
Mm-hmm.
the low point of the season, whatever you want to say.
The turning point, rather.
The Predators won twice in Dallas, and they should have won the first game here, where they had the nightmare ending to the game, but they played a really good game up until then. Dallas has got that depth, right? They're so balanced up and down the lineup, and they've got a couple of young players that have really come on. They're very, very good, but I think there's also a belief of, okay, we played pretty well against them. Our stuff works against them if we play our game. They're going to be an underdog regardless. But
they've had success against Colorado as well.
Yeah, they've beaten Colorado. Colorado's weakness is they're not as dominant away from
home,
the ball arena. Yeah, in Denver. Now, out there, they are really tough, and you have to find a way to win at least one there.
And
yeah.
you'd get 4 in Colorado, which is the scary part of it. So it really is kind of pick your poison. And look, it's the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like, it's not going to be easy. And we knew if and when the Predators made the playoffs, whatever matchup they were going to have in the first round was going to be an absolute gauntlet. But at this point, it's get in.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. They are. It is 99.6% chance per moneypuck.com that the Predators are making the playoffs. But take care of business against Boston. And then
tough business.
If you take care of business against St. Louis, which, again, I know, easier said than done, you take care of business against Boston and St. Louis, and it feels like, all right, you pretty much have your business taken care of, and you can go ahead and clinch. And then we can have our conversations of, all right, let these players rest. Give them a couple of games off going into the playoffs. Give Roman Josi and Philip Forsberg and UC Saros, give them a little bit of rest before getting into the playoffs. So we're not getting down to the very last few games of the season of, you have to get these 2 points. You have to, and you have to take care of that business. So I think it's take care of business tonight against Boston, against a really good team. And really more so than that, just get back to what we saw in that 18-game point streak. I don't want to see you go up 2-0 against Arizona and then you poop in your pants. And then Ryan McDonough gets tossed out of the game against Colorado and then you look like a different team after that. You know, stay on your game and don't get thrown off of your game and get back to that level of play that we've seen.
Yeah.
All right, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll catch up with PK Subban at some point. We think. We don't know. We'll see. TBD. We're all on the edge of our seat. But we'll continue this conversation coming up next as well. We'll get into your thoughts. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet.
Happy Tuesday out there, everyone. Hey, be safe out there. If you're in that weather, please be safe. Also, hey, listen, that was a terrific set of games last night on the women's side of college basketball. And I'm sure you did all of your betting, and I'm sure if you bet on Iowa to beat LSU, you won. And if you bet on the veteran-led UConn Huskies to win last night versus Juju and the USC Trojans, then you were a winner. So, you need to do this and bet with our partners in sports. And I will tell you about their introductory promotion, as I have been telling you for the last 2 months, available to all new customers in Tennessee. It's the No Danger First Wager. When you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you will receive up to $1,000 No Danger First Wager. When you place your first bet on Zen Sports, you will be reimbursed for the amount of your bet if it loses up to $1,000, people. Plus, Zen Sports has launched their VIP program to the premier bettors of Tennessee. If you think you may qualify or might qualify, then listen up. The VIP program is by invite only. So, if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, please check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. No other sports book, and I mean no other sports book, will offer you a premier sports betting experience with 24/7 top-tier customer support and bigger and better action than Zen Sports. So what are you waiting for, bettors? Get going and download their app today at zensports.com. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better. And always remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
necessarily a major reboot is in order. I mean, just a tweaking here and there.
Yeah, I liked our game. I think we created, both games. We're not going to win them all. It's a hard league, especially on the road. But I thought we created enough in both games to have a better result. We just did some uncharacteristic things in Arizona, and the same things maybe in a different sense in the penalty kill and the lack of special teams in Colorado. And as we all know, late in the season, those games, that's what wins and loses hockey games.
That was Predators head coach Andrew Burnett after the loss to the Colorado Avalanche. He said, look, it's 2 games. We don't need a major reboot. We don't need a come to Jesus moment. We don't need to schedule a concert and then cancel it again. We don't need, he said, I liked our game. Just need to get back on our game. And it is not a panic button time. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, we're live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. Well, Max Hers will do the pregame show starting at 6 p.m. Fabulous work done by Max Hers here.
Max, who has really struggled in the brackets this year. So I just gave him my condolences because I was that guy.
He did
last
walk
year.
away crying. He did.
He's a little down.
He's
a little
bullied
down.
him,
He walked out in a hurry after I
Max,
said that.
it'll be okay. There's
Sorry,
another.
Max.
There's
Worry
another,
word, Willy. Turn big bully, Willy.
It was me last year. I just wanted to give him some therapy because
you went through it.
I went through it. I finished dead last year. Dead last. I'm looking at a top 10 here this year if UConn keeps winning.
So
then
tell
I'll
him.
Take,
Did you tell
there's
him about
hope.
your
I told him there's
story?
hope. I told him there's
You
hope.
went from the outhouse to the penthouse in 1 year.
Yeah. So next
You're
year
the
could be his
Houston
year.
Texans of NCAA tournament.
Exactly.
Oh, yes, because I had more than one bad year. That's for sure.
I do want to get into your thoughts on the Predators, on the Titans. Everything is on the table. But first, Willy, we're looking at the St. Louis Blues here in the standings. And I have said, and I am not worried about the Predators making the playoffs. 99.6% chance of making the playoffs. It's 2 bad games. It's not a bad season. You're still 16-2-2 in your last 20, and I will take that. But at this point, Willy, how closely are you eyeing the St. Louis Blues in the standings?
Well, I think you have to. They're the only team that can catch them, really, because I think if you take a look at the Wild, the math is just not good at all for them, which is why they pulled the stunt of trying to pull the goalie again in the last one. At least the Wild catching the Predators.
Did you blame John Hines for that? I think it was a big cojones decision in the first place, and I thought for him to do it again, double big cojones.
But you don't blame him for doing it now because he's trying to get the points.
I guess not. I question why that's the best move in a game that's already in overtime. I think when you're in
they said he should have did it in regulation.
I think that makes more
overtime.
sense.
Yeah.
When you're desperate like that. And I think he's done a good enough job since he took over. I think he's going to be back no matter what they do down the stretch. So it's really the Blues that you have to focus on. The Blues are 7-2-1 in their last 10 despite a loss to the Sharks. So they're playing pretty good hockey. They also have a very soft schedule in a couple of games after they play the Predators on Thursday. So they're going to keep winning. I think they're going to keep getting – they're going to push you to where you've got to win some more games. They're not going to just check out of the race. So you're going to have to earn your way in. There's meat on the bone the Predators have to do. So that you have to be looking at the Blues. That's the one team that could knock you out. And the Blues have to pass, obviously, the Kings as well, or whoever is in that other wild card slot. It looks like the Golden Knights are playing so well that they have gone by the Kings for now. But I think the best way to focus on it, if you're Andrew Burnett, is just, look, take care of your own business.
Yeah.
You play 8 good games.
That's all
You're going to win enough that it won't matter what the Blues are doing. And we'll talk a lot about Thursday, the head-to-head, because that's the one where you can really that's where the 4-point game comes in. The magic number is 8, so you can take care of 4 of the 8 on Thursday, regardless of what happens in this game.
2 points you get, 2 points the Blues don't get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the magic number would shrink by 4 there. So tonight you can put yourself in a great position if you can find a way to get a couple. If you get a win tonight, then you're really
So whether it's a all-out win,
you win 4 out of 8, it's over. They can't catch you.
Or you're going to overtime and you get a point. I think you need a point because of what St. Louis has been doing. But to me, they just need to play. I think heading into the playoffs, because I do believe they're going to make it. Now, there are crazier things that have happened. I get that, but the odds that they'll make it is greater than not. They need to be playing good hockey headed into the playoffs. I think so. They need to be I think they need to be sort of on a winning streak. I don't think at this point in time, because of the 2 losses, more importantly, the loss to Arizona. That was the bad loss to me. It wasn't necessarily the Colorado game. It was the Arizona game. Because I asked this question, I think it was last week. When is that time where the Predators just say, shut it down and give guys rest? Like, is it the last 2 or 3 games of the season, get them rest because you secured a playoff spot? But I think because this team is at the position they're in, I don't think they can afford a break. I really don't. I think they need to go into the playoffs on a winning note, and everybody understanding there's no days off or anything other than possibly the days you get in between games. But we have to be going into the playoffs with a winning vibe. We can't go into the playoffs, even though we may make it with 3 games left, we can't go into the playoffs not on a winning vibe. We can't. I think they have to go into the playoffs on a winning vibe. If they don't, I think it's going to hurt them once they get in.
I think it's safe to say they're not going to even think about that until they clinch. Once they clinch, then they can decide, is it worth keeping everybody in there to keep the vibe, like you're saying, and maybe improve your, stay in wild card position number 1. I mean, they have to weigh all that with who's banged up and who could use a couple of days extra to heal up from something so they are 100% good to go, or as close to 100% as possible when the playoff series starts. The one thing to keep in mind, too, and we don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse, but their season ends on a Monday. There's still 2 more days of regular season play after the Predators play Game 82 in Pittsburgh on that Monday. That's a week from this coming
So they will
Monday.
have 2 days to rest.
So
anyway.
they'll have a
Some
couple
days to
extra
rest,
days more than some of the teams from the end of the regular season to the start of the playoffs.
Just want the Predators to take care of their own business.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be on the edge of your seat watching every St. Louis game from now until the end of the season, just hoping and praying that they drop a game, they don't go to overtime, and they don't get those points because you didn't take care of the business that you needed to take care of. So now you have to hope that everyone else can take care of their business against St. Louis. St. Louis, they got a pretty easy schedule from now until the end of the season. I mean, they got the Sharks on Saturday after they come here.
Yep. So they're going out to California, right?
The Blackhawks, all very winnable.
Yeah.
And
so those next 3, really, they even though they had to go
6
out
points
west,
right there.
right? So if they keep right on going and they get momentum, you can see how teams get streaky, right? The Blues are already playing well. If they get momentum going, they're surging after if they could pull off a win here on Thursday, they'll have life, right? Even if it's not to catch the Predators, it could be to catch the Kings. But look, you don't really want to think that way if you're the Predators. Just you play 8 good games. If you win 4 of the 8, it's over. It doesn't matter. The Blues could go undefeated. The Blues could beat you and go undefeated, and they still would not catch you if you win 4 of the 8. Now, of course, if you can win less than that if you beat them head-to-head, then that's even less than that.
It makes things a lot more comfortable.
Right, right. So that's why it's 99%, but 99% can become 75% and then 50%.
Worry, Willy.
I used the Titans last year, not this past year, but the year before. I was like, it's not over. It's not over. You still got to win. So until you get the X, Willy will always be keeping an eye on things. But they were in the middle of the
season then, Willy. And the Titans were in the middle. They still had a bunch of games left.
They fired their general manager in the middle of the season.
But even remember there was a game we had this discussion. The Titans, I think the Titans lost to the Texans, and you're like, uh-oh. And I said, well, if Jacksonville beats the Cowboys, you're like, well, the Cowboys are going to beat Jacksonville. The Cowboys are going to beat.
You can't rely on the Cowboys to do anything.
And Jacksonville beat the Cowboys, and I was like, uh-oh, it's getting close. And then, well, you're going to have to beat Jacksonville that last game. And, Josh Dobbs is the quarterback. Just stuff happens. Stuff can happen.
Weird things happen.
You got to get there.
Let's get into your thoughts. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to get in on the conversation. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dustin in Hopkinsville texts in and says, it's kind of crazy to me. Everyone is on the edge when we come off of an 18-game point streak. We're closer to moving up out of the wild card than down, and we're buying fingernails.
Right. Biting, I guess.
Biting.
I should say
Okay,
biting
there
fingernails.
we go. Okay.
I've
biting,
never
yes.
known anybody to buy a fingernail.
I've bought a few.
I mean, yeah. I
buy them
think
every
he was
couple of
thinking
weeks.
like real.
Yeah.
Do you bite phony fingernails? You don't do that, right?
I don't know.
I
if
do
people
not.
that.
These are
Okay.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that. I have bitten my real fingernails for
I
sure.
do that all the time.
Yeah. I get it. Like, you have to stay steady. This is where I go back to the Barry Trotz construction of this team, which is, I think, a big, big story in the league. And that is because people weren't sure. Like, you had a lot of this. What is Barry Trotz doing exactly? Are they? I guess they're not rebuilding. Why did they go sign Gus Nyquist and Luke Shen and Ryan O'Reilly? But that was what he said to open that press conference. I am bringing to the table serial winners. I want our young players to be around veterans that know how to win. I'm not bringing you to Nashville to retire. I want you to come here and show these guys how to win. So I feel good about in that locker room, especially with adding a guy like Jason Zucker, who's another guy that's won a lot of games. He's been on a lot of good teams. He's been through the battles, that they will bring the right mindset to the game. And that's all. There's certain things that you can control and certain things you can't control when you play. And that's why the worrywart, and believe me, Andrew Burnett is a worrywart too. Like he thinks in all these different ways. You always, as a coach, you always have to have that little bit of sting inside of you going, we got to look at the worst case scenario here. What if this happens? I got to be ready if that happens. But I like the fact that this veteran group, I think we'll carry the right mindset out into these last 8 games, starting tonight.
I think that's the key there is you've got veterans that have been around the block. And not just been around the block in this league, but they've been around the block in the postseason. It's not like this stage is going to be too big for them. They've been here before. They've been on bigger stages before. Another texter texts in and says, I'm not worried, ... yet. If we lose in regulation tonight, then lose in overtime against the Blues, I'll worry then.
Even if they lose in overtime against the Blues, it's still a big point.
Yeah, you still get a point.
Well, it gets a little. The feeling will be a little different if that happens. If they lose the next 2, which look, it can happen, and then you got to again go back to, well, this is a veteran team. What do you do about it? You got to keep going.
Regroup.
Yeah.
And I think
you
beyond
got an interesting back-to-back this weekend. That's the next thing on the horizon.
Yeah.
At the Islanders, who are still fighting. Their odds are against them, but they could still get in. And then the Devils, who are probably all but out at this point, but it's a back-to-back. They lost to the Devils before, so that's a tricky game, right? Then the schedule, the last 3 gets a little easier, a little bit, but you got a huge game against Winnipeg on Tuesday. That's no picnic. We know that.
Right. And if that does play out, like the texter said, you lose tonight, you lose in overtime against St. Louis, yes, you'd pick up that incredibly important point. Yes, you're still sitting in a playoff spot. But I think beyond just the standings, beyond the points, it's concerning if you lose these next 2 games because that means that they're probably not playing very well.
Right. And then things can snowball, right?
Yes.
That's the worry wart.
That is www.
You can worrywart.com.
You just gave him a reason to worry. You just laid out the scenario for Willy Wart worrying self to come back out.
Well, I will say I'm not.
But if you do that, though, I think that's what in the locker room that drives you,
Oh,
right?
of
Like,
course.
look, they're going to expect them to push, expect St. Louis to win. Like last night, you could be watching that game. Go ahead, beat the Oilers, make it tough on us, push us. We're going to come back. We're going to do this ourselves. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I get it.
You can't just say, well, we're fine. We're going to coast. They're going to lose. They're going to lose. You can't. That's the mentality that gets you in trouble.
Yeah.
And I can't worry about it until it happens. Like, I could say, well, what if they lose tonight and they lose Saturday and they lose Thursday and then they lose the next 4? Like, we can worry about all of these different situations, but it hasn't happened yet. If they beat the Bruins tonight, it's like, all right, okay, we're feeling pretty good. We beat a cup contending team at home and we're back to our winning ways. It's crazy how much can change after tonight, and it's crazy how much can and probably will change within the next 48 hours, because we could be talking about a completely different perspective on Friday morning, depending on what happens against the Bruins tonight and the Blues on Thursday. I want to get back into your phones on this. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. L'Jarius Sneed spoke with the media today. He will join our show at 1:15. So looking forward to catching up with L'Jarius Sneed, Titans' new cornerback. But But there was one report that I saw, and it's something that we can absolutely bring up with L'Jarius Sneed, but it made me raise an eyebrow a little bit. If it's true, it could be a little bit concerning, and we'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Okay, let's talk Lead Company. I'm told that we've been able to hook up with PK Subban, so we'll get PK on here with us here in just a moment. Lead Company is a proud sponsor of our Nashville Predators coverage, which will start tonight at 6 o'clock with Max Hurst, Pete Weber, Hal Gill on the call here on the flagship. Lead Company, of course, has you covered with your home. If you haven't had your air conditioning unit checked since last summer, be prepared. Be on the ball. You'll feel good about it if you get that checkup before the weather turns hot every day. And we know how that's going to be. So make sure your air conditioning is running efficiently. Get it checked, and then ask about the home maintenance plan. 615-567-1000, or go to leecompany.com. That's 615-567-1000 or leecompany.com.
behind Willy, D-Mase. We're live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. The Predators taking on the Boston Bruins tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. Pre-game coverage starting here on 102.5 and 106.3. The game starting at 6 p.m. But PK Subban is back in Nashville. We will catch up with him here in just a few moments. So appreciate PK and his time. I'm going to ask him some questions about what the Predators have coming up next. And, of course, Willy is going to be worrying about the playoffs. But I think PK is excited about what this Predators team can do in the playoffs. But want to get into your phones before we catch up with PK. Ryan Texan says the 18-game streak is great. We're not having this playoff conversation without it. However, the entire time the Preds were in that streak, I wondered about peaking too soon. Don't want to limp into the playoffs. This idea of peaking too soon, I think, has been a big topic of conversation amongst Predators.
Because I think we've
Is
seen
it real?
it.
Do we believe in that?
Well, I do think there are teams that do that. Do we have PK?
We have PK?
Okay,
Awesome.
let's go to him then.
Well, PK Subban joins us now. PK, you are back in Nashville. You'll be at the game tonight. I absolutely want to talk about the great cause, the reason why you'll be back at Bridgestone Arena tonight. But first and foremost, I have to talk about that 18-game point streak that the Predators went on, 16-2-2 in their last 20 games. I saw you were fired up about this Predators team and what they had accomplished. Are the Predators a cup contender?
Well, according to Roman Josi, I didn't get fired up early enough. He's like, you waited for us to get, on an 18-point win streak before you say something. So clearly I was late to the party, but I definitely felt that something needed to be said. And not just because, obviously I love the city of Nashville and the team, and I know players on the team, but it is truly remarkable the stretch that they've had in the season as a whole. I think when you consider new faces that have come in, head coach Andrew Burnett and Barry Trotz, who has been the mastermind behind putting, this culture together and building this culture along with Roman Josi and the coaching staff and leadership group there. They've done a remarkable job, and I think they need to be commended on that because there's so much parity in the league, and everybody's going through rebuilding, retooling, managing of the cap, picks, all of that stuff. And they've made it look easy. They really have, and it's not. It started with developing some of their young players, Angelista, Novak, just to name a few. But you see Dante Fabro and his game coming full circle, and the veterans and the mix with everybody who's come in. It doesn't surprise me the way that they've played, but if you spend any time around these guys, it's a tight-knit group, and it seems like they've played together for a very long time. But I think a lot of the credit needs to go to the coaching staff and the organization for the group of guys that they put together in that locker room. It's a special group, and I think they're going to have a special run this year. I really believe they're going to have an opportunity to do something special.
We're talking with PK Subban, and I I repeat your sentiment, PK, in regards to the Predators and what I believe they can do once they get in the playoffs. I know Willy, he's still a little bit worried, PK, but I'm like, hey, listen.
I'm confident.
They win one more game, I think they will be
it.
fine. But from a player standpoint, you just brought this up, PK. New head coach, new GM, some new players, new faces in that locker room. How long does it take, as a former player, how long does it take for everyone to sort of get on page with what the coach is teaching or what he's trying to explain to everyone? Because this team started off a little shaky, but then the second half of the season, it just seems like they morphed into this different team.
Well, I think essentially the Preds have kind of cut the fat off the meat. I think in sports, traditionally as fans, we get fed up sometimes where it seems like almost like a revolving door with coaches and GMs. They 1 minute they're coaching here, and then they get fired, they get rehired in another place. But there's a value to the people in sports that have been doing this a long time, and I think Barry Trotz is an example of that. You've seen him have success now in multiple places. He comes back to kind of where it all kind of started for him, and now I think he's going to be in a position to do his best work. And the reason is why is that the expectations for the Nashville Predators weren't to be a team that, had an 18-point streak during the season or a team that could potentially knock off one of those higher-seeded Western Conference teams that everybody was touting to win the Stanley Cup in the first round, but they are that team. And the first round of the playoffs is going to be special across the board. But I think the Preds cut the fat off the meat in terms of understanding the players that they're bringing into their organization. And that comes from experience. First, Barry Trotz, the smartest thing he did was hiring Andrew Brunette. We saw what, when he went to New Jersey as an assistant coach, what he did for that team. Is it ironic that they make the playoffs last year and he's no longer there and they're out of a playoff spot? I'm sure there's a lot to that, no goaltending and some injuries, but he was definitely a big part of the culture there and that team and those players developing at the rate that they did. So I think bringing him into Nashville and being able to identify what Andrew Brunette can do as a coach, also a guy who I played against early on in my career who understands the game, commands respect from the players. I think Nashville's done a remarkable job of hiring the right people, but also developing players, developing the young players and bringing in the right people to fill out that team. And there's no question they have the right culture there.
Yeah, it seems like they do, PK. And it seems like they're getting balanced play from every line. For a while, we just thought that this team was top line heavy, meaning their first line. But it seems like to a point, the second half of the season, every one of their lines did had some contribution to them winning in the game. But with all that being said, do you think Philip Forsberg is playing the best hockey he's played in years?
Well, I'm very excited for Phil because I think this is the first time he's actually, and this is not to take away from Ryan Johansson, who, I played with Joey, and Joey's vision on the ice and his ability to find players, he does that at a high level, and he did that for our team. He's a big part of the reason why we won President's Trophy and went to a Cup final. But I think Gustav Nyquist might be the best fit for Philip Forsberg throughout his career. Obviously, Ryan O'Reilly does his thing. You can't forget about him and what he brings, but the chemistry between Nyquist and Forsberg hasn't gone unnoticed, and I'm sure if you ask teams around the league, they've noticed the chemistry as well because they've been burning up a lot of teams, a lot of their top D pairings, exposing guys, and I think this might be the first time Phil has really had someone who has the ability to know when to shoot and know when to find him and get him in positions to shoot the puck. And, that's really selfless. Like, you got to give a guy like Gustav credit because, I think he's got 5 goals in, his last 5 games or something like that. This guy can score as well. But, Philip Forsberg's got one of the best shots and releases in the league. He's the guy that you want shooting the puck, and he understands that. And, that's how a team works. You play with guys. Everybody wants to do well. But you got to know how to bring the best out of your teammates. And Gustav's a guy who's been around the league a long time, played with a lot of players. But I think for Phil, playing with the right player, this might be the best fit for him. And once again, that's why you got to give a guy like Barry Trotz credit and Andrew Brunette of knowing how to get this all to work. And they're making it work. And, but this is definitely some of the best hockey I've seen Phil play over his career.
We're talking to PK Subban, who is now with ESPN, of course, former Predator, and he's in town to, again, commemorate his great program that he put together a few years ago when he was playing with Nashville called the Blue Line Buddies. PK, there's probably a lot of new listeners that don't know the story behind it, where you put this program together where you bring together a couple of police officers with families who live in those communities so they can bond and watch a hockey game together. It's a great idea. For people that don't know the story, where did you come up with that idea?
Yeah, so my best friend, Chris O'Sullivan, who played hockey, was drafted by the Calgary Flames, played 12 years pro, but also worked in law enforcement for 12 years. His brothers and sisters are detectives in Boston. So he's got a lot of people that work in law enforcement, but I've been privy to kind of having that view of law enforcement and what they do every day. And when I was in Nashville, thinking about this program and how it came together always brings me back to, really how I developed my relationship with my teammates because In Nashville during that time. We go back to Colin Kaepernick and everything that was happening in the whole sports world during that time. And I'm coming into a new team with new players, probably a lot of hype and a lot of attention around myself being traded for the captain. And, I wanted to build a bridge not only in the community but with my teammates as well. And I think this program was something that guys trusted. And because they trusted that program, I think they also trusted me. And that's why I have such a solid bond with my teammates and the organization, is that everybody kind of wrapped their arms around this program. And I wanted to do something, like I said, to build bridges in the community and figure out a way to bring people together. And this program has been nothing short of that. So, every time to come back, to come back and do this night and have them honor the program, not honor me, but really just honor the players and the organization and everybody involved, is special to me, because it reminds me of the first time I came to Nashville and truly was welcomed and accepted by my teammates. And, every guy that gets traded, that's what you want when you go to your team, is to feel that the guys can trust you. And I really feel that the way we dealt with that whole situation and building a program that everybody could wrap their arms around, and the city, the organization, coupled with law enforcement and, underprivileged youth in our communities, it was a win-win for everybody, and it still is a win.
One of the people that I know has helped carry that program forward is Roman Yossi, who's become obviously a good friend of yours over the years, besides a great teammate. You've played with a lot of teams, different captains. But maybe just pull back the curtain a little bit and talk about Roman Yossi, the person and the leader, because he's grown a lot, I'm sure, since you first met him, where he was really on the rise.
Yeah, for sure. I can't really say enough good things about Yos, because when I go back, I think about all the players that I played with. And, you usually can be critical of, pretty much every player. And with Yos, it was really, really cool getting to know him. Now, you got to understand this. Like, in sports, it's competitive. In the locker room, it's competitive. On the team, it's competitive. You're competitive with the guys you play against, but you also push yourself. And you need to have teammates that push you. And I think for me and where I was coming in at that career, Yos and I played the same position. We're on the power play. We play in all situations. I couldn't tell you if there was ever a moment where there was ever jealousy, like whether there was ever hate, it was always good with him, always. And it was always sincere, always wanted to see him do well. And when he was chosen to be the captain of the team, I don't think I've ever played on any team in my life in hockey where everybody felt it was the right decision. Like, everybody knew that he was the guy. And it wasn't necessarily just because he was, one of the best players on the team or in the league. It was just the way he was with people. He's a super nice guy. And don't let the pretty eyes and the smile fool you. He's a competitor as well. And he wants to be the best. He wants to be great at what he does, but he knows how to treat people. He knows how to treat his teammates. And you know what? When you represent an organization, that's what you want in your leadership. And, for this program, he's got a million things going on. He's got his kids at home. He's a family guy. But Yos always finds time, and he makes it look effortless to do the things that he needs to do as a captain. And, I'm very, very proud of him, the way he's grown into that role, because it's not easy. Seeing Shea Weber leave, having all these different faces come in a city like Nashville, being from Switzerland, to take all of that together and put it together the way that he has and still remain as one of the dominant players in the game, I truly commend him. And Nashville should celebrate him. They should celebrate him every day that he plays, because he's going to be one of the best players, if not the best one, that you've seen come through the organization.
He's one of the best on the ice, one of the best off the ice, and you are as well,
Now,
PK.
if there's a head transplant, if there's going to be a head transplant, he'd be the first one to get one on the team. But yes, he's one of the best guys for sure.
I forgot where I saw this. Somebody on Twitter, maybe it was the Pat McAfee show. They said ugliest captain in the NHL, Roman Josi.
Oh yeah, I like to give it to him because I'm just sick of. Well, I'm sick of everybody, including my mom, everybody. Oh, Yossi, he's so cute, and I'm sick of it. So someone's got to keep him on the ground, right?
There you go.
Got to keep him humble.
Yep.
Got to keep him humble. PK,
That's
you're the
it.
best. I know you've had a media car wash today, but we really appreciate your time. Enjoy the game tonight, and thanks for joining us.
I will. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thank you so much for having me. All right.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Former Predator, now ESPN NHL analyst PK Subban. Appreciate him for stopping by. And the car wash continues, at least on our show, because new Titans cornerback Legarius Sneed will join us coming up next. We'll speak with him on the other side. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063, The Game and the Game Nashville app. We will catch up with new Titans cornerback L'Jarius Sneed here in just a couple of moments. He will join the show at 1:15. Before we get to L'Jarius Sneed, Willy, D-Mase, what do you want to hear from L'Jarius Sneed?
Why? Why did, what were the reasons? Were you ever close to a contract with Kansas City Chiefs? Because you just think, like, this team just won back-to-back Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. Why do you want to leave an organization with the best quarterback in the National Football League?
I don't think he did.
Yeah, and I wanted to, I just want to, see what his thoughts were. Did he want to stay in Kansas City? I know he's here now and he's happy, but did he want to stay in Kansas City? Were there ever was there ever talks of a long-term deal, like significant talks of a long-term deal for you to stay in Kansas City? And ultimately, what brought you here to Nashville, and to sign with the Titans? So those are a few things that I want to, because everything else, I think, we'll find out pretty soon here. So in regards to his play. But the knee thing, too.
Yeah.
I want to see what's going on with the knee thing.
Was he somewhat open about that today? I can understand if a player says, hey, I'm fine, and leaves it at that, doesn't provide any detail. I don't know. Some players go into detail. They want you to know what all of the situation is.
Because they just made it out to be a bigger thing. Like, was it really that big of a deal? Because we didn't hear about this until it was evident you were not signing back with Kansas City.
I saw a report. This is from, Pete Sweeney, who, according to his Twitter bio, he's a Kansas City Chiefs insider and an analyst on Kansas City Sports Radio, said, we've been told that the Vikings considered sending the Chiefs a 2024 fourth-round pick and a 2025 third-round pick in exchange for Sneed, but the Vikings discontinued discussions due to his medical history.
See, I want to know how, what's the deal in regards to him not practicing? Is it being made to be a big story? Mm-hmm. Or was the knee reasons you didn't practice, like legitimate reasons? Was the knee swollen, stuff like that? Obviously, the Titans signed him, so whatever they saw in their medicals, they were not that worried about. So I would love to get an answer for that one.
I don't know if he had or his agent had, some talks with him behind the scenes of, okay, here are some of the teams that are showing some interest. What do you think of the Titans? I wonder if he was kind of before the deal saying, okay, yeah, I'll go to the Titans. I don't know if that's part of it, or is it just, okay, whoever it is, I'll deal with it as long as they're willing to, sign me to that next deal, because that's, that's a part of the business part of it too, right?
Yeah. And then was it the AAV? Was it the guaranteed money? Which one sort of, put you over the top in regards to signing him? Because at one point, from the information I was gathering, he wanted to be the top paid cornerback in the National Football League. Mm-hmm. And I said to that person, he shouldn't be worried about being a top paid corner. You should be worried about the guaranteed money. Mm-hmm. That's what you need to be worried about, because you can have the top AAV, but your guaranteed money could be fourth or fifth in a line of top paid players.
A lot of that's out of his control. And it was a trade that the Kansas City Chiefs decided to make.
But it's not necessarily out of your control. It's you got to hammer down with your agent. Like, this is what okay, I'm not the AAV highest paid corner, but when it comes to guaranteed money, I want to be ranked in that top 2 or 3.
So we'll catch up with L'Jarius Sneed. We'll hopefully, we'll ask him the questions. We'll see if we get the answers, and we'll chat with L'Jarius Sneed coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. Preds fans, don't miss tomorrow night's Smashville live show at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs at 6 p.m. See your Predator star players up close and personal, plus get autographs and pictures. This week's special guests are Spencer Stastny and Mark Jankowski. Smashville Live is brought to you by the Black Abbey Brewing Company and ESPN Bet Sportsbook.
All right, let's talk Lone Pronto. We have been talking about their plan to get you on better financial footing. You can improve your financial situation, especially if you've got some bills to pay or if you're looking for a way to fund a home improvement project coming up this spring. So all you've got to do is use their tool that we've used in the Donick House in the past, and that is the Express Equity line of credit. If you're a homeowner, your house's value is probably up, and that means you have home equity that you can pull from, and then you can make your house even more valuable with a home improvement project. Or maybe you just need some cash to address a credit card bill or another personal loan that you want to pay off and have a better situation. They can do that for you. And here's the best part, they can do it fast. They have a great system that is getting this turned around in a very short period of time because, look, you want to keep this moving. You don't want to take a ton of time in your day to get paperwork together and all that stuff. Loan Pronto's system is AI-based. You can get approval in a very short period of time. So call them, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, equal housing lender.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're live out here at Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. Predators taking on the Boston Bruins tonight. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. L'Jarius Sneed was introduced to the media today, new Titans cornerback, and he joins the show now. L'Jarius Sneed, I know that you've had a lot of press conferences and interviews today, but really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to speak with us. Just wanted to start with kind of how this process has gone. You got franchise tagged by the Kansas City Chiefs. They gave you permission to seek a trade. Just kind of your initial reaction after hearing about the trade, the process behind the scenes for you, and your initial impression of this Tennessee Titans team.
Well, yeah, I could say the whole process at the first beginning was kind of stressful, I could say, because I didn't know what was what, or if I'm going to be here, or if I'm going to play under this tag, or is they going to trade me. It just was a whole lot of questions I was questioning myself about. And but I was taking it all in, as enjoy. I took it all in, and I knew God was going to make a way for me. I'm a big firm and big believer in God, and so happily Tennessee came through with the trade, and the Chiefs let me go. And so happily I'm here and walking to the building. My first time in the building today. It's feel like home to me. I feel like family. From the first time I walked in.
What were the important things for you as you were going into this contract year, staying with Kansas City or the trade? What was, on your list of important things, what was kind of ranked as the most important things in your priorities for that next contract and this next phase of your career?
Just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm still learning, still growing, and, I will never stop learning. I'm going to be a sponge, come in here and soak whatever I can soak up, however I can help my teammates, my coaches, whatever I can do to help. Same as I did in Kansas City Chiefs, I'm going to keep the same hunger. Whatever I brought from over there, I'm bringing it over here and probably even better.
We'll talk with L'Jarius Sneed, new Tennessee Titan cornerback and two-time Super Bowl winning player. Now, L'Jarius, there's been a lot of calls and texts into our station. They're excited about L'Jarius Sneed and what he's able to do. We're excited to have you here. But the question that keeps coming up, what about the knee? What about the knee? Yes, he's a damn good player, but what about the knee? So tell the fans, do they need to worry about the knee? Because everything that was coming out was, well, he didn't practice. And I had to tell people, listen, sometimes guys just don't practice for whatever reason. Sometimes coaches hold guys out for whatever reason. But I am not going to sit here and say, well, all of a sudden now it's a problem, because before anything ever came up, this knee issue wasn't a problem. And then all of a sudden when you are asking for the trade or they give you the permission to seek a trade, now the knee becomes a problem. So can you tell Titan fans, in regards to your knee, that they have nothing to worry about?
Titans fans, I'm here to tell you that you don't have anything to worry about from the L'Jarius Sneed knee. L'Jarius Sneed is going to go out there every practice, every game, and give you my all. Go back and watch the film. I gave everybody my all, no matter what my knee condition that my knee was in. My knee is in great position. I know what to do to maintain my knee, or whatever I need to do. I got this end of my part. I'm just going out here and play ball. Just give Tennessee Titans fans and this organization all of me. Well, so the knee is not a problem.
Okay.
So they can start worrying about that.
Well, Titans fan, you heard it from the horse's mouth. The knee is fine. He will be ready to go, and he will be that corner he has been, and maybe even better than he was in Kansas City. Now, what are you bringing here to the Tennessee Titans? Because this is a young team, L'Jarius. A lot of veteran guys that they had are gone now, and now you're going to be considered one of the leaders.
Yeah, I think I'm coming into a great position. I can show the guys the way, the young guys, show them the way how it's done. And, I'm not going to be that, I'm telling you now, I'm not going to be the rah-rah guy all down your neck, yelling at you, or that's not me. That's not my game. I'm going to come up to you, what we can work on it together. I'm going to work with you, to help you grow as an individual. And, I want you to help me grow as well. And so I know this thing is not going to be handy-dandy as we get this stuff rolling off. It's work to be done. I'm willing to put the work in with those guys and, showing the way, and we're going to be okay.
Now, how important was it to you and your team that, meaning your agent and everybody else around, that you were one of the highest paid individuals at your position? Because ultimately, that's what happened. You end up getting a contract that puts you up there with some of the greats that are playing the game right now. How important was the yearly AAV, or how important was the guarantee to you?
Oh man, it was definitely important to me because I felt that, keep it honest, I felt that I earned it. You know, my 4 years of play, and you know, some of those guys, I looked at those guys, you know, stacks. It's a reason that I wanted to be the highest paid. You know, because my similarities were similar to theirs, or even if better. So you know, yeah, I wanted to be the highest paid. You know, I'm thankful, I'm blessed. You know, I thank God every day I wake up, the position I'm in, and the calling that you have on my life, and I'm ready to bring it to Tennessee.
We're talking to L'Jarius Sneed, newly acquired corner for the Tennessee Titans. L'Jarius, we started hearing some whispers, some rumors that, hey, the Titans are interested, you know, when your situation came up. Let's go get this guy. We're starting to follow the story. When the Titans started coming up on the radar, maybe behind the scenes for you, and you're envisioning, okay, can I go to Nashville? Can I keep doing my thing there? What's the team looking like? What were some of those first thoughts? And did you have input there and say, yeah, I like Nashville, let's do that?
Yeah, I was definitely, you know, once I see them, you know, it wasn't only Nashville in the talk during the time, you know, it was just, I was just trying to figure out, you know, where I can get a long-term deal from, where I can take my talent to someone who's believing me, you know. And the Tennessee Titans was the ones who jumped the broom and they believed in me. So I'm just here to tell the Titans fans that they're gonna get the same caliber player out of me. It's nothing less or nothing more because of the money don't change anything. It just changed my family lifestyle. That's about it.
When you got a chance to meet with Rand Carthon and then talk to Brian Callahan, and then, you know, Denard Wilson, the defensive coordinator, what were your first impressions of this leadership group that's going to take this franchise forward?
Oh man, I felt the love, I felt the hunger, and I felt that, you know, they trying to build something. I felt I see the hunger of what they're trying to do. You know, I just can't wait to get to work with these guys. And, you know, they treat me like family. The first step I walked into, you know, my hotel, I say that. First step I walked into the hotel, you know, and when I came into the facility, it's just, you know, all the love.
We're talking to L'Jarius Sneed, the Titans' latest addition, cornerback from the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, L'Jarius, I've always heard from players who have competed in Super Bowls or won Super Bowls that once you win that first one, the hunger to get the next one just intensifies. You won 2 with the Kansas City Chiefs. In your time there, what have you learned about what it takes to win a Super Bowl?
Oh, man, you know, just hard work, dedication, and, you know, being relentless and resiliency. You know, it just, those things can take you a long way. And, you know, we had a lot of adversity, you know, during them Super Bowl time. You know, it wasn't all glory and things. And, you know, we went through things as a team as a whole. And I feel that, you know, it's all played a part. And, you know, I'm just trying to bring my championship swagger over here to this organization. You know, whatever that is I can bring to help this team out, you know, that's what I'm here for, just to build and grow this organization.
Now, is there any, and maybe he asked for it, maybe he doesn't, but you've been around who we believe is the greatest quarterback in at least right now in the NFL, and Patrick Mahomes. Is there anything you can take from him that you can share with Will Levis? Because a lot of this, how this team moves moving forward and how many games they win moving forward, a lot of it, as you know, is predicated on quarterback play. So how can you help get your young quarterback, you know, ready to go for this season? What can you tell him that you saw from Pat?
Oh, man, you know, all the things I seen from Pat, you know, I took it in consideration because I used to sit down with Pat myself, you know, just have one-on-one talks and watch film with him. You know, whatever that is to help him, you know, once I see him in, you know, camp and stuff, once we get to moving around, you know, I'm gonna compete. I'm gonna make sure he have a hard time throwing the ball over there to my side. You know, I'm gonna sit down and talk with him and just go from there. Wherever the conversation and wherever the moment is at that moment, you know, I'm gonna help him out.
Legarius, where do you think Mahomes made you better in maybe practices, things like that, just going up against a guy like that?
Yeah, man, I can say in practice, bro, nobody throws the ball like Pat. Like Pat balls is so crazy, man. Like you could be in good coverage, he's still gonna dot it in there, and I just salute him. And once I know if he doing this, the best quarterback right now, I knew. That's what made me during the season, really, because I knew I was going against this guy all training camp, so he'd get me ready.
We're talking with L'Jarius Sneed, new Titans cornerback. L'Jarius, D-Mase asked you about the knees, and I know hearing you say that the knees won't be a problem. I know a lot of Titans fans out there are kind of sighing a sigh of relief. But just from kind of a business standpoint, a contractual standpoint, did you agree to sign a waiver on the guarantees if the knee does become an issue?
So repeat that, please.
So just in case the knees do become an issue, I know a lot of people are relieved to hear that you said that it won't be an issue, but did you agree to sign a waiver contractually if the knees do become an issue?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't sign a waiver.
Or is the money fully guaranteed?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. I mean, because, again, L'Jarius, a lot of our fans, obviously the Titans play in Kansas City, and they watch you play, and they were super excited about the potential when it first came up of, the Titans getting L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, then once it actually happened, I think a lot of fans around here were just elated. But like I said before, they were still like, the knee, all this stuff is coming up about the knee. But you have, you have told us that, hey, listen, there's no problem. You're going to continue to play at a high level. And I think that's ultimately what Titan fans want. Now, going up against.
Can they go check the film, too?
Yeah, they need to. And listen, I can tell. Hey, listen, L'Jarius, I can tell them to go check the film.
17,
exactly.
I just played 17 games, the full season plus the Super Bowl. But now when I want to get paid, it's a problem. Now I might need a problem.
And that's what. And when it came up, this is what I said a week ago. Like all of a sudden, now this stuff is coming up. We didn't hear about this stuff when last season or even at the beginning.
I know.
We didn't hear about this. Now all of a sudden we're hearing about this. It's kind of, just kind of fishy to me. But that's neither, here nor there. Going up against, D-Hop and Ridley, you said that Pat made you better going up against him every day, and I'm sure that was the case because my years here with the Titans going up against that defense, it made me better every day. I'm sure it's going to make you better going up against D-Hop and Calvin Ridley and Traylon Burks every day.
Every day, going up against the old caliber wide receivers every day, man, it's a scary sight for the opponents this upcoming season.
L'Jarius Sneed, L'Jarius, I know today has been a whirlwind. You were styling in your tux at your press conference. We really appreciate your time and appreciate you for stopping by. Looking forward to watching you this season.
All right, thank you.
All right, appreciate it. New Titans cornerback, L'Jarius Sneed. What do we make of it? Initial takeaways?
I mean, obviously he says nothing's wrong with the knee. I'm going to believe him because I thought it was ironic that, all of a sudden when, you knew that there was this potential of him moving on from the Kansas City Chiefs, all of a sudden this knee stuff started coming up. And I'm not saying that, there shouldn't have been a concern, but it was just convenient that now you can't pay him. He may want to leave. These knee things are coming up. It's not like he missed 8 or 9 games. Hell, he missed not even one game, I don't think, this season.
But 16 of 17, but still 16
exactly.
games.
He played throughout the whole playoffs. So it was good to hear him say, listen, my knee's fine. We're good. He even talked about, listen, I didn't have to sign no waivers for my knee, which tells me that the Titans, once their doctors looked at it, they felt, okay, it's good to us. It's nothing more than what we may see in any other player.
The reason why I asked that question was just to see from the Titans' perspective, how truly fully committed are you to L'Jarius Sneed? I know he says the knee is not a problem. I know that he passed the Titans physical, but there has been at least enough noise for me to wonder or for me to want to dig a little bit deeper. So if the knee does become a problem, and let me just say, if it does, I'm not going to say that it will. it's not going to be L'Jarius Sneed's fault. You can't control an injury.
No.
But that's going to fall on Rand Carthon for making that decision and fully guaranteeing that money. Now, again, the knee's not a problem right now, and nobody gets in trouble for something that they haven't done, but that is something to at least keep in mind moving forward, because per a report that we saw from Pete Sweeney, who covers the Kansas City Chiefs, the Vikings reportedly were in on the Sneed sweepstakes but pulled out because of medical history concerns.
Yeah, and listen, I get it. You know, some teams may not have the stomach for just minor injuries. You know, some teams, you know, don't mind a little bump and a bruise here, you know. And maybe the Titans was one of those teams that didn't mind, you know, a guy not practicing. Because, again, I want to just tell, you know, fans and our listeners, these guys, once they get to the middle of the season, more than likely, a lot of these guys are taking days off because it's a long, grueling season. Coaches are pulling guys out of practice, even if you have just a minor injury. Because why? They want to save you for the game. They want you to get those important days out of the way, whether it's Wednesday or sometimes it's Thursday and Friday because it's red zone and all this other stuff. But, yeah, if you've been dealing with something, you know, something minor, toward the middle of the season, coaches tend to pull their marquee players out. Like, you're good. You don't need 100 reps. You need 50 reps or 25. You don't need the 100 that guy over there needs, because we understand you know what you're doing. So we're not going to even chance it. We don't. The last thing they want you to do is get hurt in practice. My thing is, did he get hurt in the game? Was that knee a problem in the game?
It didn't seem to be.
No. So if I'm a head coach in the gym, I'm like, nah, yeah, his knee may be a little swollen or something. But don't practice. No, he don't need to practice, because the last thing I want for him to do is get hurt in practice.
Totally.
You don't want that.
You know what else jumped out at me in addition to the knee stuff? And he, look, he's a pro for answering that, right? He could have just said, look, I'm not talking about my medical stuff. I've seen players play that card,
absolutely.
and it's within their right to do that, right? Yeah. Hey, look, the contract signed, we're good. You know, what it is what it is. You know, he could have gone that route. He was pretty open about it, considering, right? Those are pretty detailed questions you're asking, and he answered them. So I give him a lot of credit for that. I also liked how he acknowledged he wants to be the best at his position, and he knew this is a time in his career where this was his opportunity to get that next contract. And he said, look, I've earned. I could just tell it. Like, he feels like he's earned it, and I love his answer about they let me go. Like, I think we should hold on. The Chiefs, they let me go. Like, it's about choices. The Chiefs are so good. They've been so good for so long. This happens. How many times have we referenced other great teams, like the Lightning in hockey, that you just can't keep everybody? The salary cap forces you to let people go, and there's a little bit of pride, I'm sure, for Jerry. Oh, you're going to let me go? All right. That's your choice. You know, but I think that kind of drives him. I like that.
100%, absolutely. And that is one thing when you're looking at
it. Definitely, like Ryan McDonough. I remember our first interview with him. He was like, I was kind of surprised. Like, oh, you're going to let me go? Like, they haven't won as much since Ryan McDonough has been there. You know, like these are tough choices. You can't blame the team for. They have to do it. They don't have a choice. They have to let somebody go. But I think for that player, that pride hits you, and you're like, oh, I'm the guy you're going to leave. Yeah. D-Mase, you know that as well as anybody.
Oh, of course,
right?
Absolutely.
When Floyd, like, I got to let you go. You're going to let me go? You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
There's ways you could keep, you know.
There's ways you can keep it.
There's ways you can do it.
But you chose not to, then you're going to pay for it for at least 10 years. And they did pay for it for 10 or more years.
Going to make you pay. Yes. Absolutely. But we appreciate L'Jarius Sneed stopping by. We'll get your reaction to L'Jarius Sneed, what he had to say coming up next. Plus, D-Mase said, I heard something wild yesterday on Jared's show, and me and Willy both said, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's crazy when I say one thing and y'all both know exactly. So that means it was crazy. That means it was crazy.
I even knew what you were talking about, D-Mase.
We have to get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. We're brought to you by Zen Sports. Start earning cash rewards on your bets today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee to bet. We just caught up with newly acquired cornerback L'Jarius Sneed. D-Mase asked him about the knees, and he says, nothing to worry about, Titans fans. My knees are fine. And he did clarify that his contract is fully guaranteed. Want to get into some of your thoughts on this? Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Nate Texan says, do you think it's that Titans doctors are okay with minor injuries, or that Titans were just that desperate for a starting corner that they overlooked it? If the Titans were so desperate for a starting cornerback that they overlooked possibly legitimate medical concerns, then Rand Carthon has to understand that that could be his job. Like if the Titans were so desperate for a starting cornerback in 2021 that they overlooked Caleb Farley's medicals, well, they're now paying for that right now.
Yeah.
And John Robinson paid for that himself. And I am not saying that L'Jarius Sneed is Caleb Farley and that the medical concerns are as concerning as they were with Caleb Farley, but it's just another example of you cannot overlook certain things that could be serious concerns just because you're desperate. And fully guarantee the money as well.
I get that, but this is not comparing apples to apples. Caleb Farley had injuries on top of injuries on top of injuries, and then you decide to draft him with all this injury history where he missed seasons and everything else, and then you decide to draft him with a bad back, and then he messes up his knee again, and the guy just hasn't been right since he's been a Tennessee Titan. You can't compare that to L'Jarius Sneed, who missed one game last year, this past season, I think maybe one or two the previous season. He's not an habitual, game misser in a sense.
The severity of the injuries are different.
Exactly.
100%.
Absolutely.
Just kind of using it as an example.
I think also I would have been wary if he were more in that category of 29, 30, 31, where just wear and tear and age in general is a concern when you're investing that much. But he's a little younger. I feel like, look, anytime you invest that much money, like top paid at a position, you're rolling the dice a little bit. Taylor Lewan, when they made him the highest paid left tackle, it was hit and miss from there on, right? He had a couple of good seasons, but he had some injury-riddled seasons, right? And it was kind of like, what did you get from your investment? You got a mixed bag a little bit, right? When he played pretty well. And I think you have to hope when you're investing in the person that, number one, you believe in the person, and you have to hope that a guy stays healthy. And I think when at 26 or 27, whatever he's going to be this year, I feel a little bit better about that than if he were a few years older, where a lot of times you have to make a tough decision on a free agent and say, I love this player from ages 22 to 26, but am I getting the same thing going forward here when I got to pay big bucks on that second contract?
Well, they need to have a plan as well, a plan on how to because I'm not saying a plan because I believe the knee is an issue, but I think you got to have a plan going into camp because you don't want the knee to become an issue. You don't want to sort of wear it down if that is the case. So what is your plan throughout training camp, throughout the season? How do you, because this is big money you paid, to have this individual be your number one corner. So I've invested all this money. Now how do I help him as a player maintain that level, maintain where he's ready on Sundays? That's what the Titans now, and I'm sure they have
protecting
been
discussing.
Protecting your investment.
You need a little luck. You always need a little luck. Like, was Derrick Henry a great investment? Heck yeah.
But it was a little luck, too, that he didn't get hurt.
Right. He got hurt one time.
Exactly.
But they paid him a lot of money over a long period of time, and they got great play.
Well, they got great return on that.
Yeah, and Ryan Tannehill, up until the last year and a half, was worth a big investment. He earned that. He was very durable, and then all of a sudden, his last couple of years, the injury thing finally cropped up. But there's risk anytime you do this, right? That's the name of the game in the NFL is availability.
Absolutely. We were kind of talking about this at the break. And let's just say, the knees are never an issue. And L'Jarius Sneed is a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro, and, a staple piece and a foundation in your defense for the next 10 years. Then great. Rand Carthon is going to look like an absolute genius for making that trade for a third-round pick next year. But if the knees do become an issue, and it's about the knees and less of a contact injury, because unfortunately you can't control a concussion or a torn ACL or game injuries, things that happen on the field. That's a part of the sport. But if the knees do become an issue, then that becomes a question with Ran Carthon of why did you feel comfortable making this move and guaranteeing the money when maybe nobody else in the NFL was? But of course, we're not going to be able to.
Sure.
We don't know the answer
Only
to that
time
question
will
right
tell.
now. We don't know the answer to that question.
Look,
right now.
I'm not a doctor, but that would be where you really have to trust. And I think there are great doctors that work for the Titans that look at it and give you an honest thing. I mean, and they're looking at it and they're probably saying, look, this is what we see. Maybe there's some things there, and that you get the details and you process that as Ran Carthon and the people making that decision. It's like, okay, I can live with this, and this is a go.
Yeah.
This is a go, because they had to do that.
So D-Mase got here, and Willy sat down, we all sat down, and D-Mase said, I heard something crazy on Jared's show yesterday, and all of us, Nick included, said, I know exactly what you are talking about, and we were all in 100% agreement that what Jared had to say yesterday about the Tennessee Vols' loss to Purdue was absurd. This is what Jared said yesterday.
So I think Rick Barnes blew it. I think the officials blew it. And the third place I'm going to go is Dalton Connect. And I know you're going to say, wait a minute, Jared, Dalton Connect had a gazillion points yesterday. What are you talking about? It was everybody else. It was Adu who didn't play well. It was Awaka who fouled out of the game. It was Ziegler who couldn't hit a shot. It was Vescovy who gets a wide open look at a three-pointer right before halftime, and he hits the front iron. Here's where I'm putting this on Dalton Connect. This was a mano-a-mano showdown. Their guy versus your guy. Yesterday, we had the two best players in the country playing against each other. It was Zach Edey and it was Dalton Connect. And Dalton Connect had 37 points. Edey had 40. Dalton Connect, I'm sorry, he missed too many shots. He missed too many open looks. You know, again, 6 for 12 from 3. Put a couple of more of those in there, and those were some clean looks he got. Make a couple more of those, and you win. 14 of 31. Make a couple more of those, and you win. And so when you're the star player, you have the star responsibility. And in that game, Dalton Connect woke up yesterday morning, and he knew that he had to be the best player on the floor yesterday, and he wasn't. So the idea that, we'll get back there, I don't know, man. This was a special team, and this was a team that should still be playing. This is a team that should be competing for the national title, and yesterday, quite frankly, they just didn't play very well, and the game wasn't officiated very well, and they didn't coach very well.
So Jared
they didn't play very well. They played a great game.
One of the reasons why Tennessee lost to Purdue is because of Dalton Connect and his 37 points were not good enough. Willie, you were sitting there shaking your head with your eyes closed.
Well, it can't be all three things that he said. I guess that was part 3 of a 3-part thing.
Yeah,
that it was
Barnes'
Barnes' fault and the ref's fault and Connect's fault.
Then Connect.
It can't be all three. I don't think. Now, you're saying, why did they lose? But, like, when you're saying fault, I thought Tennessee played a really good game. It was an excellent college basketball game in a big game. It's just you weren't quite as good as Purdue in a, 4/5 road game, right? As much of a road game as you could play on a quote, neutral site. Mm-hmm. And it just came up a little bit short to me. I don't know, that's probably just not exciting enough talk radio for Jared. I'm shocked that he would have a take like that on Dalton. Did Caitlin Clark... I mean, she missed a few shots last night, last I checked. She did miss a few.
Yeah, she
I
did.
mean, when you shoot a lot, you're going to miss some.
Shots.
Connect he was awesome. He played a great game.
The thing that drove me crazy about Jared's take there was he said it was mano-a-mano, and I would kind of agree with that to a certain extent.
No, it's not mano-a-mano.
But hear me out. Zach Edey versus Dalton Connect. Your best player versus our best player. Jared said Dalton Connect had 37 points and Zach Edey had 40. Let's pretend that Dalton Connect had 41. Tennessee still would have lost. They lost by 6. Let's say Dalton Connect had more points than Zach Edey. Let's just say he had as many points, more points than Zach Edey had of Dalton Connect on Sunday. Zach Edey had 3 more points than Dalton Connect. Let's say Dalton Connect had 43. It still wouldn't have been good enough to win.
Yeah, he did. I mean, you can't... At least I wouldn't. I mean, a guy scores 37 points. He shoots damn near 50% from three-point range. He shoots close to, if not over 50% from the field. And it's his fault because he scored 37 and not 40. And to me, it's not mano-a-mano because I can see if it was Zach Edey versus the kid from UConn, the big 7-footer from UConn.
Right, where they're guarding each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's mano-a-mano to me. No, Dalton Connect is a guard. Zach Edey is the center. That's not mano-a-mano to me. Zach did what he was supposed to do as a player to carry his team forward. Connect did what he was supposed to do. They lost that game because they didn't get contributions from other players.
Nobody else did anything.
Yeah, nobody. At least Zach Edey's players sort of contributed a little bit, you know. Yeah. They didn't contribute at all. Ziegler had a bad shooting night. Vescovy, after being sick, had a bad shooting night.
Wide open three.
Jordan, the second half, he was not good.
Adu was
exactly. Adu just was occupying space. Don't Connect carried his team, but Purdue just had the better team that night. It had nothing to do with Dalton Connect scoring 37 points.
You know, if he,
I can see if Dalton Connect scored 10 points,
but if he took some bad shots or something and forced it, I really don't think he did. I think every time he shot it,
you hater,
especially in the
you
context
Tennessee hater, Jared's a Tennessee hater. That's
Jared's
all.
a Tennessee homer and hater.
Yes,
simultaneously.
exactly.
Speaking of Jared, he will be coming up next. Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m.
He'll retort. I'm sure.
Exactly.
I'm sure he'll retort.
Be love and love on your people. Peace.